Get enough sleep last night.
Apologies for the lateness, but we just had a couple of things. No, it's not your fault. We had just some technical difficulties to get to overcome. I had a couple of things to take care of too. We've already got people in the chat. TX Motherbird 63, what's up? Hey, great to see you. And then we got Ronald D the third. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I do apologize if I'm effing that up. And then Joker, good to see you, bro. Yes, you are here, and we are not all there. You know. And then of course, hey, look, here go your boy already, Nino. Here go your boy. Here go your boy already. Professional.
Oh, what's up? Professional troll coming to watch the professional streamers. How you doing, Shake?
Exactly. Good evening, y'all. Good to see everybody here. Good to be back after a fantastic weekend last week. We DCU in New York City, our 2026 Apostate Radio, enjoying a soccer match, the two of us. It was a great game. Great atmosphere, great time. We were really blessed to be.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, really blessed to be out there in Queens with both the DC United and also the New York City Football Club fam. Great times, great reunion with some people too. So that was great. Episode 53. Yep. We are here, man. Oh man, this has been great. So let's get this thing started. Of course, if you want to follow us directly, you can do so at Isaiah L. Carter or at Nino Tabio X. You can also follow the show page at Apostate Radio New York. Matter of fact, I just got to shout out my wife's favorite sports team, the New York Knicks, who skunked the Philadelphia 76ers today by 30 points.
Bing bong.
Bing bong. It was not even close.
How many points? 40?
They beat them. I think this. I'll get the official score in a sec, but I know the deficit was like 30 points.
Man, Knicks are red hot right now, man.
Hilarious. It was hilarious how bad they got beat. The Sixers, like Joel Embiid kept falling over. It was just ridiculous, man.
Yeah, that's
absolutely ridiculous. Anywho, you can also, it was bad. It was bad. I'll have the official score a little bit later.
Knicks look good, man. Let's go Knicks.
Knicks are scary.
Yeah.
The Knicks are scary good.
Yeah, they do look scary good.
Dude, I saw a stat earlier today. And again, we're not a sports team, but we're not a sports show. 24 3-pointers.
Damn.
24 3-pointers. There were 20, like it's in some insane stat.
There you go.
No wonder they won by 30 points. It blew them out.
Last game, I know the Knicks had a really good field goal percentage, man. They're like 51% or something like that for last game. I watched the last one. I didn't know it was on today. The new one.
Today's was higher.
Man. Cooking. Let's go, Knicks.
Yeah, buymeacoffee.com/apostate radio. We like coffee. We need new draws, all of that. Yeah, we love the support that we get from everybody, and please keep sending more. We love y'all for that. Subscriptions are now available on X on my page for $5 a month. Gonna do thinking about doing some retooling of everything pretty soon, and then Apostate Radio merch is also available now at realtimeinc.com/collection/apostate radio. Let's get this thing started, shall we? With a big game. I'm sorry, big show tonight. Coming to the woke right has been a problem. And a lot of people love to say that the woke right doesn't exist, that that there aren't actors on the right who are basically trying to steer people back into the Democrat Party machine out of some weird sense of I'm going to punish Trump for not doing exactly what I wanted. And a lot of people, a lot of your big time podcasters and also like your regular network people, they've all been on this wave. And it's quite unfortunate. It's one of the Megyn Kellys, Alex Jones, who have tried not to criticize too much. But there are so many people out here who claim to be on the right, but are operating for the left. Tucker Carlson is another one. We'll talk about him. But tonight we have someone who understands these people actually a lot better than I do. And I'm personally grateful to have gotten this, brother. We've been on a couple of spaces together over on X. This is a dedicated, a great American, and also a dedicated anti-communist. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Green Beret Nap Time. What's good, bro? How are you?
What's up, man? I'm good. How are you doing?
We're great, bro. Great to have you on with us. Greatly appreciated. This is I'm excited for this. I was looking forward to this show in particular. Because like I said, you bring an energy to these communists and also to these fakers on the right that a lot that really is underappreciated, in my opinion. So I'm glad to see you come here. Oh, Joker says a long time mutual. Joker 937. That's a good dude. Y'all should follow him seriously. But
what's up, Joker?
Yeah, but
what's up, Joker?
Ray, tell us who you are. Tell us what brings you here. This is our custom, since you're a first time guest on the show. Who are you? What are you all about? Introduce yourself to our audience, please, sir.
Hey, well, my name's Chase. I run Green Beret Nap Time on X, and the Irregular Republic Podcast has just started. About 11 episodes into that bad boy now. There's no set schedule of that, but really what kind of got me into all this is just seeing propaganda for what it is, and then how big of a problem the propaganda pushes have been, especially since COVID. So just a little background. I was a Green Beret in the Army for almost 14 years. Got out after COVID. Yeah, I got out after COVID. After some just bad taste and left in my mouth about how kind of everything went down with COVID, and then not knowing who was going to win the next election after Biden. I wasn't about to indefinite and stay in the Army for another who knows how long, and maybe have a Kamala Harris or whoever. So kind of made the decision easy for me. Got out, done a few different things here and there, and this has kind of just been what the passion has been. I write, I do a lot of research now and articles and things, and again, it's all about just pushing back against this propaganda we're seeing. And unfortunately, the propaganda has went pretty mainstream right wing, which is terrible to see. The good old days, we would just make fun of dumb lefties and the occasional like foreigner, and that was X, and it was pretty fun. And now it's just like a constant fight between all the different people, and you got to try to figure out who's actually on the right side, and who's just doing it for money, and who's just doing it for whatever. So but that's it. I kind of just get on, do a little bit of arguing, and push back against all this nonsense we're seeing today.
Oh, girl, great to have you here, bro. There is one thing. Well, I guess the first question I want to ask you is, where did the name? I mean, besides you being in being a Green Beret, and thank you for your service, by the way. I know you probably get that a lot, but seriously, like former Army myself, yo, thank you for doing what other Americans just simply either can't or won't do.
You as well, sir. Thank you.
Indeed.
How did the name Green Beret Nap Time like I didn't even know Green Berets took naps.
So it's an inside joke. So that's kind of how it all started. I was just kind of like, hey, I didn't know what I wanted to name it. I knew I didn't want to again, when I first started, this is back while I was still active duty as well. And I didn't want to just be have my, name and identity out there while I was still active. I knew I was getting out, but still, there's lines I didn't want to cross while I was still active duty.
Of course.
So Green Beret Nap Time is just it's an inside joke. So it's kind of a thing that every Green Beret knows what it is. And GBNT is like the obviously the acronym for it. And it's just a duty day requirement of a nap for, the rock star lifestyle of being a Green Beret, like partying all night and hanging out with all the chicks and all the it's just, again, it's more a joke than anything. And it's just a way that, we'll be like, we're doing something that day. We're going to the range or we're working or whatever. And we're like, oh, all right, I need a GBNT real quick. And, whether you actually get to take one or not, who knows? But that's just kind of the joke. And so, yeah, it's just an inside joke.
I got you.
Chase, I got a question, Isaiah. And maybe I'm ignorant, but what does it mean exactly to be like a Green Beret? And how does one become one? You don't have to get so into detail about it, but just for people who might not know, including myself, I'm not an expert on that, obviously.
Yeah. So Green Berets are U.S. Army Special Forces. So Special Forces is a title that kind of gets thrown around for all what we call Special Operations Forces. But in reality, U.S. Army Special Forces are the only special forces for that specific name. So there's a bunch of other special mission units or special operations forces, which would include Navy SEALs, would include MARSOC, Rangers, all the different units that are doing their special things. But we're actually the ones that are called special forces. So and that's just you go through the Q course is what it's called, and it's for most of the jobs, it's about a year-ish long course. I was a medic, so it adds about another year on top of that of training. So a little over 2 years for that. And then you go through that. And once you're done, you get this little green, that little green hat that's made of wool and it's super hot. And no one actually wants to wear it, but it's still a point of pride, and so that's kind of, and we're actually the only unit in the military that the president signed the EO for us to wear that headgear. So the Green Beret, JFK actually signed an executive order for that was the official headgear of the Green Berets. So, or of the U.S. Army Special Forces. So that's kind of where the nickname comes from and all that.
Oh, wow.
Is it like an elite squad, would you say, for usually, or?
Yeah. So we're the only force in the military that does unconventional warfare. So as our core mission. So you have all the different, like Navy SEALs do a lot of maritime, and then they do a lot of direct action. So we can do that as well. But we also do unconventional warfare, which would be where a team, we're in what's called ODAs, Operational Detachment Alphas, and a team of us, which is around 12 guys, can go into an area, link up with a partner force, train, equip and advise them, and then lead them into battle, to overthrow tyrannical government forces. And that's kind of like our whole purpose.
Hell yeah.
Would you say that there might be seeing some Green Berets in Iran anytime soon? If there's boots on the ground,
I wouldn't know if there was anyone there. I'm out. I'm not in the loop anymore. I couldn't say anything, obviously, even if I did know. But I would say that if I was going to want to try to insert some Green Berets in, 13,000 sorties and bombing the shit out of the country for 30 plus days would be a good way to soften the defenses a little bit so that you could get some UW forces on the ground there. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. But Green Berets are in a little over 80 countries right now across the world that, most people don't even know about that either. So, and that's not like a classified thing. It's not all combat rules. Obviously we do a lot of training. We do a lot of internal defense. We do, kinds of different missions that we would help, local partner forces or even, smaller governments, help them train their security forces and all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
Very cool. Thanks for that insight.
Man. That's what's up. That's what's up. Oh man. So where do we start? Let's get to this. Let's start with this maximum warfare shit. Like, Democrats just really fucked up. Like, I have never. This week, for those of you who don't know, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that state governments could not racially gerrymander could not gerrymander congressional districts according to race. And for many people, that's just kind of like, well, duh. That like they followed the law. The Supreme Court followed the law, except for, of course, the leftist judges on the court. And then Friday, Virginia. You've heard us if you've been watching the show, been on the channel. You've seen me talk about it, and like my lunch break videos and stuff like that, where the Commonwealth of Virginia tried to ram through a gerrymander that would have rendered the state 10 Democrat to 1 Republican. And I'll bring up the maps in Virginia in just a second. But it's the map was one of the craziest Hydra looking shits I'd ever seen in my life. Dead serious. 5 of the congressional districts had legs in Northern Virginia, like around Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, Tyson's, like in that area. 3 of the, I think it was Scott Jennings who brought this up. Like 5 of the Congress members who, if that map had stood, 5 of them all lived within like 15 miles of each other. It was insane. They all it was hand built Hydra shit, and I'll show y'all. But Friday morning, Virginia's Supreme Court, which is about 4-3, it was a 4-3 decision. 4-3 decision, said no. We're going to throw this out. The entire process was jacked up. Chase, what have you heard about this, and what are you seeing in terms of the Democrat, like the fallout from the Democrat Party on this? Because they're going insane.
Right. Well, they're realizing that they can't operate how they were operating under Biden. That's one of the big things that people kind of missed under the Otto Penn administration, is that there was our government was being ran by some 20-year-old, crazy woke people from all over the country that had just graduated college and knew what was best for the country. Right. They didn't actually care about what the voters wanted. They didn't actually care about the rules or the laws or anything that has to do with that. They were just going to change things. Just like they essentially changed the way the definition of fiduciary duty was interpreted by the U.S. government to allow these massive mutual funds and these hedge funds to push ESG, environmental social governance initiatives, just stuff like that. I mean, they were pushing all this kind of stuff through. Well, the same thing in Virginia. They did this vote, and they made the question was obviously, I don't know if you've read, if you read the question, it's super confusing, right? You don't really know like what you're even actually voting for. You're like, wait, is this a good thing that I'm voting for this, or is it bad or what? And so most voters are going to be confused about that. That's what they want. That's the messaging they use anyway. It's just confusion, chaos, and that usually ends up giving them a leg up on what they can and cannot do. And luckily, the Virginia Supreme Court saw that and at least has a few people that are still patriots in there that stop that from happening. And again, to go along with the SCOTUS decision to stop the racial gerrymandering as well is big. So
I mean, from what I had heard about that, and read, like the reporting that I read, even the liberal judges were like, you guys really jacked this up. Like,
Yeah.
You understand how bad things had to get, like how bad things were when even the left, or even like the liberal judges were like, no. You know what I mean? They were literally like, no. The language was bad. They rushed the whole thing through, and then I brought down. I minimized the window here. This is like, we're talking 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the new districts that they had drawn up. Like I said, all right there in Northern Virginia. It was as if Obama had hand drawn the maps himself.
Yeah, it's that that was Anthony Oliver. Is that the song? The Richmond, North of Richmond. It's literally that. Yeah, that's what they did. They just are gonna. They're and we're not done seeing this kind of stuff. No. Luckily, the Virginia Supreme Court recognized that if they tried to push back against the United States Supreme Court, then there could be some fallback on them for making a ruling that would violate the Constitution. So even, like you said, even those some of those liberal judges were like, look, like this was so blatant that we have to strike it down. If you're gonna cheat a little, you got to at least like disguise it a little bit. But they haven't been doing any of that stuff. I mean, if you go through the ESG playbook and you go through the NGO ecosystem that we're reporting on right now, and SKW and Data Republican are doing great work on that kind of stuff. They're not hiding anything, man. It's all out in the open. It's all public. Yeah, I mean, it's all public, and now it's just a matter of going through the financial data for all of these different NGOs, which is AI is going to help, and it's going to take some time still, but the SPLC indictment was just the tip of the iceberg, and I think we're about to see some crazy things come down. And I also think that the Republicans right now are understanding timing a little bit better. So that's another fault of or failure of what I like to call the whole all right. This push that they've been doing, all these influencers that kind of switch sides and have been blackpilling and pushing against Trump. They started it too early, right? Like the attention span and the memory cycle of most people is maybe a month. Maybe you got a few weeks to a month out of it, and then they're moved on to something new, and they're on to the next thing. And so all these things, I think we're going to see a lot more coming out right before midterms. And I think they're crossing their T's and dotting their I's because they want these cases to go before grand juries and to get stuff on immediately, and then charges be dropped. And building these cases is important. But also timing is important, because at the end of the day, we got to win elections. And this election, I think, is one of the most important ones. We say that often, and you hear the left say that as well. The difference is that Republicans aren't trying to take over the United States and change the Constitution and do all these things. Like, we're just trying to uphold what is already there, whereas progressive Democrats and the far left, along with some of our enemies abroad, are really actually trying to destroy the Constitution, pack the courts, open the borders, and do all of the things that actually are going to render America as a different nation than what we exist as today. So that's kind of the big difference, I think.
They've got to be stopped. They've got to be stopped. I mean, when I saw James Carville, it's funny you mentioned how like all of the stuff that they want to do.
Isaiah, why are you blue right now?
Why am I blue?
Is he blue to you, Chase?
I don't know.
Am I blue? No.
I don't see blue.
Okay, you're good. You're good. Maybe that was just me. For some reason, your square was blue, but nobody else's was. Your screen.
Oh.
But I think you're good now. All right, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how that's possible. I don't know how that's possible from my point of view.
Listen, when you say blue, I immediately went to the lips. I'm like, wait, what?
Not like the whole screen was pretty blue. Like, I could see you still, but it was like a big. It looked like you're underwater.
Oh shit. Okay.
Sorry. We're good.
Well, maybe I need to turn up the.
No, you're good. You're good.
Light a little bit. There we go. Oh no,
you're good.
I'm making too much. All right. So
it might have been my computer for some reason. I don't know why it would do that. It's so weird.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah. So I've like, they got to be stopped. Like the stuff that I hear James Carville, for instance, the stuff that he says about, don't just talk about it, just do it. Pack the court. They want to put four more Supreme Court justices on the bench and make Puerto Rico and Washington D.C. New states.
Yep.
Now, initially, I didn't really have a problem with, because I remember the whole DC statehood. I lived in Baltimore, but I was born and raised in Baltimore. So I used to hear about the whole DC statehood movement for like quite some time. And then there was another one like back in the 80s or 90s, I think, where they wanted to call Washington, DC. I think the name was New Columbia. And that seemed kind of cool. But if you could help me out, because I don't particularly understand why it would be such a bad idea unless the plan was like, I guess they figured they might have like a monopoly on power if, they just figure both senators from DC would be automatic Democrats, or both,
that's what it would come down to. Yeah, they would get four more Democrats in the Senate, guaranteed, because Puerto Rico is going to vote blue as well. And then you get representatives out of that, as I don't know how many, they probably get another 3 or 4 out of it at least, which again, that gives them a little bit more power. And then just the other thing is that would make DC can already obviously vote and all the things, but Puerto Rico, if you're living in Puerto Rico, and I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but pretty sure they can't vote on unless they move into the United States and are actually living in the United States as opposed to Puerto Rico. So that gives that it just opens up a whole nother voting base as well that's going to vote Democrat. So,
or at least that's the assumption, because
yeah, you're right.
I mean, because here's the thing, because I've thought about this, like the Democrat brand has never been worse. Like more people are seeing the Democrat Party for the degenerates, the immoral, the communistic, like more people are seeing this. Like even when I talk to people like coworkers and friends, like people you come across in the street, more people are starting to realize that the Democrats are bad news, and that they might just be bad people to go along with it. If you go to a city like where I used to live in New York, where people are seeing, you've got homelessness everywhere, you've got crime happening everywhere, you got people stealing shit out of retail stores, you've got you've got like bike lanes everywhere, and that eliminate parking, and people don't want to drive. You're charging people $9 to drive through the southern half of Manhattan, and then you're trying to do even worse in Brooklyn and in some of the other boroughs. It's like people are seeing people are seeing Democrats and the socialists acting underneath of their banner. They're starting to see that these people are just bad fucking news. I mean, what has your experience been like down there in North Carolina with that?
North Carolina is pretty. I mean, we have a Democrat governor, but the House and the Senate are highly Republican. I mean, they just passed not too long ago. They passed you don't have to get permits anymore to get to buy firearms. It's just a background check if you don't have your conceal and carry. So that it's not too bad in North Carolina. There's some things obviously that they could work on, and maybe have a better candidate running for governor. I can't remember the guy that was running before, but he had that whole scandal with his with the daycares that his company owned or something, and they just ran those ads for like 2 months straight before the election, and he just got destroyed because of it. Just
as he should have.
Yeah. So, but well, I say this a lot is that what we're at least, Democrats or not all Democrats, but the far left, the progressive Democrats are incredibly evil. They are trying to put, socialism and I mean, we're already the biggest welfare state in the entire world, which is crazy because we're not a socialist or communist, country, but somehow we still give out more welfare than anybody else. So that's a problem. But the good news is that because of a lot of their initiatives, because of DEI, and because of all this, the just crazy that goes along with being a Democrat, is they are mostly pretty stupid. And so just like the stuff in Virginia, they tried to push it through. It was so terrible and so against the law that it had to be stopped. And I don't know if you saw the rebuttal or when they tried to file real quickly right after that to file an appeal. They misspelled Virginia and they misspelled Senate.
I did see that. That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
That's
so it's just
embarrassing.
It's people that they went and they got their gender studies degree and then they joined politics because so it's just people are recognizing it, and luckily there's enough intelligent people that I think are going to be able to push back against all of this and kind of stop it. But yeah, I mean, the problem is that still a lot of people are just uninformed voters. That's the main issue is they watch their little bit of MSNBC or CNN or whatever it is before they go to work, and that's their entire outlook of how the country's going. And if that's all you watch, right, you wouldn't really know that you're part of the baddies. Like you don't realize that like you're part of the people that are trying to overthrow the Constitution and completely destroy it and do all the things. But yeah, I mean, like you said, luckily a lot of them are very stupid, and you have your Crockett's and your who lost her primary, which is hilarious. Just all these people that they're just not smart. There's no reason they should have been in a position of power to begin with, and they kind of prove it all the time. But then you have that attorney general in Virginia that said he wanted to kill Republicans and kill just blatantly came out and said it and still ended up winning an election. So we do still have a problem with messaging, and I think overcoming that is going to be the main issue. Propaganda and like sensationalism, that's all sexy and people want to see that stuff, and they're drawn to that kind of stuff because they're like, oh my gosh. Whereas like the truth isn't as sexy and the truth isn't as it doesn't get as much traction generally. So that's the uphill battle.
Go ahead, Nino. I'm looking for something.
I was going to say to go along with what you're saying, it's like AOC, right? AOC keeps on putting herself out there, right? And like she was in Europe, making a fool of herself. She was just saying something about this Virginia legislator, basically saying, what'd she say? The court did not overturn a map; it overturned an election. It's one thing for a court to check a legislature or an executive, but the end all and be all of power in America should be the people. So basically, like she's complaining that we didn't let democracy run its course by going against the state constitution and or federal constitution. Like it's just like, well, if the people choose to do it, then that's just screw the constitutions. And that's the reason why we made the constitutions. That's the reason why the founding fathers did it, is because sometimes the people are stupid. Like they very clearly said that. Like Hamilton said that in the Federalist Papers. I think Madison, I'm sure, said that as well. The people sometimes get swayed by passions that are they're very ignorant, like you said. Like if you're watching CNN all day, I watch CNN. The left does not watch. This is a point we got to make. The left does not watch right wing or conservative, smart conservatives, and not anything conservative besides maybe a few clips out of context. I actually watch CNN, so a good amount. I watch News Nation quite a bit, which is pretty moderate, and I watch even MSNBC sometimes, especially when something big happens. I like to see what everybody's saying, as well as seeing things on Twitter and various other things. And they don't see it. So all they're seeing all day if they're watching CNN is how is what happened today Trump's fault, and how is Trump the worst, most incompetent, most corrupt person of all time? Every day, that's just the way they got to figure out a way how they got to spin everything. And then very important things that he did that are good, don't really mention it, or they'll figure out a way to like make it look bad. And really terrible, crazy things the left does, like you mentioned, like, trying to trans your children, trying to, indoctrinate kids to want to castrate, mutilate themselves, trying to indoctrinate kids to hate their country, hate white people, hate males, hate boys, hate Christians. Really, truly is. It's like these sort of things. Obviously, open borders. Nobody's talking about open borders on CNN, really, or that it was a problem until finally they had to, after years. Right. Nobody pretending like Joe Biden was not senile for years. Just pretending like they're saving democracy, people, but for them it's like, well, you're crazy if you want to vote for Trump when you should be voting in this person who cannot think at all or talk at all, right, and it's going to fall down the stairs. And it's democracy when you have people in the background running the country. That's democracy, or having millions of immigrants in to vote fraudulently, or putting our money into different NGOs fraudulently. You name it. I mean, it's bananas. And I'm hoping that some of that is creeping into the independents, into the moderates, into some of the Democrats. But yeah.
Well, they also frame everything as, this is a fight for democracy. Well, guess what, guys? We're a constitutional republic. So
right.
all your little talk about democracy, republics are a form of democracy, but we're not democracy rule. And to your point, the founding fathers feared a populist uprising that could sway or take over and alter the power or the Constitution just as much as they feared a tyrannical governor taking over, like a king, mm-hmm, or a tyrannical dictator taking over and having his way with the country. So those two things were the main fears when they were writing the Constitution. Well, really when they were arguing the Constitution, for those months and months that they sat in that room and argued about what should be in and what should be out and why certain things are the way they are. And there again, Democrats bank on the fact that most people, most Americans, are ignorant about our own history, not only our own history, but world history as well. They don't know, that certain things even happened. They don't know why World War II was actually fought. They have zero clue why World War I was fought. And then they don't understand, the grievances in the Treaty of Versailles and then what pushed into World War II and all of that. So they don't understand any of the concepts of that. So they can't make a accurate, judgment about it at all. And then you go back again, just American history. They don't understand why the Constitution was written the way it was. They don't know what the Constitution says. They don't know what the Bill of Rights are. They know the First and Second Amendment. That's all most people can ever tell you, So that's the problem that we're facing today. And I think that it's an information problem. It's an education problem. How do you get people that, are, especially this microwave society that we're in today? They want everything right now. They want everything so fast. It's got to be done quick. Videos, they have a 30 to 50 second attention span, if that, when they're scrolling to the next one, if it didn't immediately catch their, so like we as conservatives have to get better at just putting forward the information that needs to be said in a way that the young people are going to see it. And like Charlie Kirk was very good at that. And Charlie Kirk was very good at concisely getting a message out and saying, everything, because he had that brain that none of us have, right? Like there's maybe 5 people on this earth that had the brain that Charlie Kirk has. Like, who can recall information verbatim at a moment's notice, any from biblical to everything in between, to everything from our Constitution. I mean, I can't recite to you every single amendment, right? I'd have to look up a lot of them. I understand most of them, but he could tell you, he could read every one of them to you from memory. And so that kind of a person has the ability to communicate that stuff so much better. And that was just one of the main reasons why he was so successful, and so his message was so powerful. And that's another reason why they, so obviously wanted to get rid of him.
Can I share?
And he was able to remain civil too, right? Like usually. Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is much more effective for communication. And when people share the videos, when you're trying to talk to people, it's hard to remain civil, in political debates when people when you're talking to people who have a totally different view of reality, totally different bubble that they're in, and they're also usually pretty insulting to you, like, especially the left talking to conservatives, or you're a fascist, you just hate, it's like you hate trans people because you're trying to protect women and private spaces and sports and children from being indoctrinated. You hate trans people. It's like, no, I don't. Trans people mind their own business and hang out with adults and do their own thing. I really don't care. Like, do you live your life? I don't care what you do. But once you go
after them kids,
promoting
that's
the
problem.
Kids, drag queen story hour shit. Like, that's the shit that I don't, that should not be tolerated whatsoever. And has nothing to do with hating trans people. Like,
wait, hang on a second. Because
go ahead,
Nino, your boy's acting up again in the chat. This one, he says Isaiah can't do that. He crashes out every week. No, asshole. I crash out every fucking day. I can't stand Leftists. I can't stand them fucking people. I can't.
That's great.
I can't. Like, dude.
Well, that's his brand, man. Isaiah's brand is a fire brand.
Listen. I am the sword. If you want nice, if you want even keeled, you see the gentleman on the right side of your screen with the absolutely immaculate beard. Okay, you go see him. All right.
I'm not that even keeled either half the time.
I fucking hate comments, bro. And look, again, and look, here he goes. See, no shit. But listen, I do want to just share a bit of something to your point, Chase, about Charlie. Charlie was.
This is my favorite. This is my favorite clip of his.
Charlie was so freaking good at this.
I just shared this the other day too. This is good.
Shout to Andrew Colvett, who was one of Charlie's best friends. This is. There ain't nobody that can do this.
Our country was founded on common law because the Declaration only refers to God 4 times in the Constitution. It doesn't refer to God at all. And it only articulates the structure of government.
So first of all, remember that we were a collection of states and colonies, and you need to read the state constitutions before anything else. 13 out of 13 required a declaration of faith. 9 out of 13 required you to be a Protestant, except Maryland, which was Catholic, which still required a declaration of faith. Every single one of the original state constitutions, Pennsylvania included, they had, I profess Lord and Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior in the original state constitutions. Secondly, 55 out of 56 of the original signers of the Declaration were Bible-believing, church-attending Christians. You asked about common law. So common law is inherited from Blackstone, who was Christian. A common law is an outgrowth of the scriptures. So let's go to 3 principles of common law: presumption of innocence, due process, and jury of your peers. All 3 are biblical principles. So, and all wrapped into the ultimate biblical principle that you shall not favor justice if you are rich or poor, which is in Leviticus 19, right before the most famous part of Leviticus 19, which is that you should love your neighbor as yourself. But before that is that in the administration of justice, you shall not favor the rich or the poor, which is the idea of blind justice. We get that in the West, which is incorporated also in the New Testament ideal. Neither slave nor Greek nor Jew, you're all one in Jesus Christ. We get the idea of human equality. These are all biblical ideas. They're not Enlightenment ideas. But more importantly than that, they say that God was only mentioned 4 times in the Declaration of Independence. Well, that's a big deal. Okay. Laws of nature and nature's God. The last paragraph of the Declaration reads as a prayer. It says, we appeal to the supreme judge of the universe. Who's the judge of the universe? Jesus Christ. As it says in Revelation, that Jesus will judge the earth on his throne. So in the Declaration, they were praying to Christ our Lord as a prayer very specifically. Thirdly, as I said on stage yesterday, Deuteronomy was by far the most quoted book, religious or non-religious, in the time of the founding when they were putting together the Constitution, more than John Locke, more than Montesquieu, more than Blackstone. The book of Deuteronomy, which talked about laws, customs, traditions. It was Moses' farewell address as he's about to say goodbye, say, hey, good luck in Canaan, guys. Here's how you should set up your form of government. But finally, and most importantly, let's look at actually what the founders said. John Adams famously said the Constitution was only written for a moral and religious people. It was wholly inadequate for the people of any other. The body politic of America was so Christian and was so Protestant that our form and structure of government was built for the people that believed in Christ our Lord. One of the reasons we're living through a constitutional crisis is that we no longer have a Christian nation, but we have a Christian form of government, and they're incompatible. So you cannot have liberty if you do not have a Christian population.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a machine, man. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk, man. We lost a great one.
How could he do that? I
Yeah.
I watch some of his, and
The machine.
rest in peace to Charlie Kirk, and a happy Mother's Day to Erica Kirk. If you ever see this, we love you. We greatly loved and respected your now late husband, and we pray the Lord's comfort during this time. But golly, man, like, how was he able to do that?
You could see him while the question's being asked. He's like moving the mic. He's like, he had that whole answer in his brain like that second. He already knew like he was about to just destroy this entire question. And it's, I mean, again, he was a once in a lifetime kind of, or once in a generation, I'll say, kind of person. And hopefully we have someone that'll step up into his footsteps. But I mean, I've talked about this before too. The left is going to push this rhetoric, and they're going to continue to push the rhetoric they've been pushing, just like they have vilified Trump to the point where, you know, anybody who doesn't actually know, anybody who that's all they listen to, they would think Trump was worse than Hitler. And that's their whole point, is because if you can radicalize people that are, you know, to a degree, eventually some insane person is just going to go take a shot at them. And then that now all you had to do was just push your rhetoric out anyway. You don't need a conspiracy theory. You don't need to hire assassins or like do any of all the nonsense that, you know, may have had to happen in the past with certain, you know, things we've seen in history. They don't have to do that anymore, because now you just have to just hope that, you know, a crazy person is going to pick up your messaging and is going to do the work for you. And that's what we saw that with Charlie Kirk, you know, and that's what is terrible about all this.
Look at that.
These bubbles are very dangerous, man.
We live in some very dangerous times. I mean, I don't think I've ever, I never once thought that we would live, you know, in a time in this country where speaking the truth, even though we have people on the federal level where we would be fine, on the state and the local level, you could still get something could actually happen to you, and has happened to people. I mean, we've had like that Savannah Hernandez lady get attacked by some leftist savages. We've had a couple of instances of like really, really bad violence happening at these rallies. You had like the NYPD in New York City. They get rolled by these protesters every fucking night. Every fucking night, it seems, and it doesn't help that they're sandwiched, right? You know, you've got the street animal communists, you know, going and doing these direct actions, while having a fully sympathetic mayor and about 80% of New York City Council.
Yep.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. But like we're getting there. We're getting there. Yep. Grandma Kate, who has commented on the show before. We love you, dear. Thank you for joining us tonight. She says, Isaiah, according to the message of Our Lady of Fatima, death of the martyrs, Charlie Kirk is because of God's anger and part of Revelation. Do not, as she continues, do not doubt that we are in the midst of Revelation. I believe it. Listen, look, my father, I'm not Catholic. I was not raised Catholic. But my dad, whose birthday is tomorrow, shout to Mr. Kevin Carter, 68, big 6'8". And
shout out to Mr. Carter.
Yes, love you, Pop. He has been
preemptive birthday
tomorrow. That man,
happy birthday, brother.
Bro, that man has been preaching to my brothers, his daughters-in-law, and everybody else that we are in fact in the last days. And Chase, I don't know how you feel about it, but man, I'm like getting back to trying to get back to where we were going with this. I just don't know that anybody there's nobody on the right who could do this. There's no there is nobody who could do what Charlie Kirk did. And I guess
that's
do what we do in our own little way.
Like I was talking about earlier, SK and Data Republican, some of these people they tracked right after Charlie Kirk was killed, and these ops that were pushed, they were already ready to go, right? Not to say that they had a part in it, but that they knew that they had the ecosystem ready and prepared, just like we would prep in the environment for an eventual invasion to some country. If we were going to do that, we would have everything kind of set up, and then we're waiting for certain catalysts to happen, whether we made them happen or whether they just happen organically, and then we're going to move on that messaging and push forward. That's the same thing that happened right after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Was a lot of this propaganda and this messaging, especially on the right, started, which was inorganic. It started manifesting through a lot of these influencers that would have been held in check by Charlie if he was still alive. They weren't gonna stray to the levels. We would have seen some of the stuff. Tucker was already on his trajectory out, to do his stuff, and so Tucker would have been actually the Charlie Kirk Tucker Carlson battle would have probably been something to watch if it would have got to that point, because he would have definitely pushed back Charlie would have pushed back against Tucker after this. But just a lot of the people, the fractures that happened, they wouldn't have happened until they happened.
Sorry to interrupt, Chase, but Tucker's not doing TPUSA events anymore, is he?
He was at the funeral, but I don't know that. I don't think that they're bringing him into anything else. I hope not, at least.
I hope not. I hope not also, because Jesus Christ, that guy, like you talk about like somebody who cannot be trusted anymore. And we'll talk about that in the next hour. When we cover the woke right. But I was wrong. I spoke too soon. I do think that this Spencer Pratt guy in Los Angeles, I think he's close. And for those of you who might not know, ladies and gentlemen, Spencer Pratt he's running for mayor of Los Angeles. This is a man on a mission. This guy, basically, he lost his house in the Palisades in that big fire a couple of years ago. Oh, no, last year with the fire. And this man has been on a mission. He wants to run for mayor. Basically, when the Palisades burned down, his house burnt down. He and his family's house, his parents' house burnt down, along with the rest of the little town out there. But so you have that firsthand experience when it comes to the direct failure of communism. But a video that just dropped, and shout to Insurrection Barbie for finding this. Spencer Pratt basically went through Karen Bass and her Nithya Rotman. I don't know how you pronounce her name. He basically read Karen Bass's entire history in a social media post.
Karen Basura is a communist. Now, when I was 19, 20, I was living in an apartment on Skid Row, getting my political science degree at USC. That's as LA as it gets, dude. But do you know what Karen Basura was doing at that age? You guessed it, going to Cuba to support the communist revolution and Fidel Castro's oppressive regime. What? Karen Basura is a card-carrying member of the Communist Front Group, the Venceremos Brigade, an anti-American communist solidarity organization in which she actively worked for years to undermine the U.S. and prop up the communist revolution in Cuba. Does this sound normal to you? Who in the heck spends their 20s supporting a violent communist dictatorship in a foreign country? What were you doing at 19 years old? Some reports have shown that Karen Basura's communist organization was actually involved in intelligence training ops on behalf of the Cuban regime. And some of the members actually bombed the U.S. Capitol in 1983.
I'm muted. The fact that Spencer Pratt in a mayoral election was able to bring this up in a TikTok post should absolutely terrify the left. Because all of this is documented. I mean, were you aware of some of this stuff about Karen Bass, Chase?
Not until he started putting some of this stuff out. I mean, I don't follow every single, mayoral race, in the country. It's hard to look into all of these people, but I mean, yeah, once I saw some of the stuff he's been putting out and I looked into it a little bit, I was like, yeah, that actually makes sense. That I mean, what's crazy is like Spencer Pratt's not a conservative, right? But he's also not a communist. So, and he actually cares about LA. And one of the things I do like about him is that he did one video and he's like, I'm not going to talk about what's happening, in the Middle East or what's happening in Iran during my run for mayor in LA, because none of that has anything to do with me running for mayor in LA. He's like, exactly. What I want to talk about is what I can do to help LA and to fix LA and the problems that LA has. And that's the way it should be, right? Like you have Mamdani, over there tweeting every single day about what's going on in Iran and what's going on in in the Middle Eastern countries and stuff. And like, what does that have to do with you running New York, bro? Like, why is this? What is your focus really? Because obviously his focus is stepping stones, right? He wants to move higher up into our government, which is, I think it's a problem when Islamists, an Islamist takes over the biggest city in our nation. And then, is clearly pushing for a higher level office inside of our government moving forward. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to go as high as he possibly can, so Ron. But the thing is, like, this guy, but like, when it comes to the understanding of communism, Reagan talked about that, right? Where it's one thing to read and know about communism, but it's another thing entirely when you understand it. And I think especially with this man's house burning down as a result of the Palisades fire, which some street animal communist set that came out earlier this week. I kind of think that now he kind of understands what communism is. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, for people that don't know what communism is, it's a buzzword. It gets thrown around a lot. It's just like fascist gets thrown around a lot, and no one really knows what it actually means. But I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to any of these collectivist ideologies. If you go back and look at when the Tsar fell in Russia, and then all the different imperialistic governments that fell and the monarchs fell, they didn't have anything in Europe that resembled the individual liberties and everything that was built in the United States. They didn't have that kind of even a mindset. They didn't understand that was even a possibility. That wasn't even a thought in a lot of their minds. They thought that they had to do everything through the collective because that's how they've been throughout history. But I mean, if you go through, once Stalin took over after the Bolsheviks and the collectivist push that happened in Ukraine and Belarus, I mean, we're talking about mass death. We're talking about millions and millions of people starving to death. And then when collectivism fails, these authoritarian dictators, they have to have an enemy. They consistently have to have an enemy to blame all these failures on. So collectivism wasn't failing because collectivism is a failure, like a failing type of society. Collectivism was failing because people were pushing back against the collectivism. And then, so he named them the kulaks. So for any of you that have ever read anything about, history, the Nazis had the Jews, the Soviets had the kulaks. And the kulaks, there's no definition of who a kulak was. There's no way to actually identify who a kulak was. It was just whoever they said was a kulak, because that's who they were blaming for the failures of collectivism. And then that's why they went through And when the harvests were not as big as they should have been in the Western Soviet Union, coming from Ukraine and coming from Belarus, they didn't look at the real problem, which was the fact that anytime you collectivize everybody's farms and then force them to give all of their crops to you for no money and barely leave them even enough to eat, they're not going to work as hard. They're not going to give as good of sow as good of a crop and give as good of a product, because what's the incentive behind that? There's no reason for you to try harder, because you're not going to get any benefit from it. Well, so then as collectivism failed, they had to blame it on people. So they blamed it on all the farmers and the peasantry inside of Ukraine and Belarus, and murdered, starved millions, murdered hundreds and hundreds of thousands, sent them to the gulags, which gulag is the way it directly translates is prison camp or death camp, right? So that then the Soviets started that, and Hitler moved forward with that later on once he was farther into his power base. But people just don't realize that how good we have it in America, the protections that we have because of the Constitution and because of the fact that we're an armed populace, right? That they weren't an armed populace in these areas. None of them could stand up against the Red Army. None of them could stand up against the different forces that Stalin was pushing through, or that Hitler was pushing through to enforce a lot of these crazy laws. And again, it's just people don't know history, so they don't understand how terrible communism actually is, because it's just a word that's just been thrown around so much.
Also, Chase, I don't think you mentioned this. They also, if I'm not mistaken, would either try to steal everything, whether the property or whatever, from the most successful people. They consider the most successful people enemies, right? Class enemies. And what they should realize, what people, obviously, I think a lot of kids these days don't realize this, a lot of leftists, is that when you get rid of those people, whether you kill them, which is some of the communists did, or imprison them, or steal all their stuff, or because they know this is coming, they leave the country. The most successful people they usually have that money and that success because they earned it, more or less, usually, right? Right. If they're running a great farm, that's because they're a farming expert and they have a great process and they're very good at what they do. They have a great team, whatever it is. And then if you kick them out or kill them or whatever, and you're like, all right, we got this, we took this over. It's like, do you guys know how to farm? Bolsheviks? Right. Do you guys know how to make this farm? Maybe you know how to farm a little bit. You know how to make the farm this successful, right? And then that leads to 10 million people starving in Ukraine, right? Holodomor or whatever it was. Whatever the number was, people, I think there were signs up saying that, reminding people to not, they shouldn't be eating their kids.
Oh, there was huge. If you really want to get a deep dive in what happened in Western Europe, or in Europe and in Western Ukraine and all that area, The Bloodlands by Timothy Snyder was one of the best books that really goes through the rise of both Stalin and Hitler, and then it goes through the entire process of the war and just everything that Stalin did. I mean, most people don't even realize, like, Stalin killed 8 to 10 million people before Hitler even started killing. Like, so really Hitler's first big mass deaths were when they defeated the Red Army in Ukraine and had their first kind of prison camps with the Soviet soldiers, and they just starved them all. They literally just put them into camps and just let them starve to death. They didn't feed them for a month or two and let them all die. But he learned all that from Stalin. And like I said, Bloodlands, get it on Audible, and it's one of those that I've listened to. I listened to it multiple times at this point. Man, it's
Lenin before him. Lenin before him.
I mean,
he had like 1 million people killed or something like that, at least.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, Lenin and Trotsky and the Bolsheviks, they killed a lot of people, but the scale
Stalin was at another level.
Way. And then Mao, if you go look into Mao's history,
the great leap forward.
Oh yeah, the 42nd 5-year plan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
40 million.
40 to 80 million people.
40 to 80 million.
Cultural revolution. The great leap.
What a great leap forward. What a great leap forward. Man.
A great leap. A great leap. A great leap. into the ground. That's basically that's
your
basically
graves.
what it was. And I, for the life of me, I don't understand. Like, where did we go wrong as a country? And by the way, this is Apostate Radio, episode 53. We're here with Chase with Green Beret Nap Time. We are grateful to have this brother on with us. Where did we go wrong as a country? Where we've got where communism of all things became something cool and aspirational. I've never understood it, bro. I've never understood it. Even when I living up here in New York, and I would see all of these self-hating white Midwesterners just pour into New York City. And then they would, and like they're all college educated. I call college broken. They're all college broken. They all went to these, to these A and S tier universities, and they come here. They came to New York, and they support this guy. They supported Zoran, and they really love Bill de Blasio when he was mayor. Yeah. And it's like, they're like, being a communist, being a shit lib is something that's cool. Here in New York, I don't understand it. It's like, where did we go wrong as a country to where Bernie Sanders, one of the biggest fucking hypocrites in American history, is considered a possible savior of America, where Elizabeth Warren, who took millions in big pharma dollars, people still consider her to be, and God, she had this demon who worked for her by the name of Amy Challoner. That's a whole other show in and of itself. But it's like, leftists, I don't understand where leftism started to look cool.
Propaganda works. And
indoctrination, man. Indoctrination in colleges too, in high school even.
Yeah, they captured the education system first. It's active measures. So if you've ever heard of the naked communist, actually, I can share this. You can put it up if you want.
Come on, feel free, bro. Our platform is your platform tonight, dude.
So this is the naked communist, and it is a 45-step process that was created by the Soviet Union before the fall of the Soviet Union to basically rewrite the United States and how the United States operates. And you can kind of, if you go through this list and you just read it, you'll see how much it lines up with the current Democrat Party, and that should be pretty terrifying to you as well. But it's a globalist, multipolar view of the world where they're trying to take away American exceptionalism and what kind of makes America America, and push it towards what would be a communist society. So you can see.
Hold on. Scroll back up to number 1. I'll just read I'll read through them if that's okay. Yep. Current communist goals from the naked communist by, who is it? Cleon Skousen? Skousen. Okay, Cleon Skousen. Okay, current communist goals. 1, U.S. acceptance of coexistence as the only alternative to atomic war. 2, U.S. willingness to capitulate in preference to engaging in atomic war. Christ almighty, that was Obama's whole doctrine. Pallets of cash. Develop the illusion that total disarmament by the United States would be a demonstration of moral strength. I've heard that. I've seen that a lot over the last several years. 4, permit free trade between all nations, regardless of communist affiliation and regardless of whether or not items could be used for war. I mean, that's Amazon. That's Amazon. That's all Amazon right there. All the cheap shit from China and the deindustrialization of the United States. That's what that is right there. Let's see. 5, extension of long-term loans to Russia and Soviet satellites. 6, provide American aid to all nations regardless of communist domination. Oh, fuck, that was USAID. Grant recognition of Red China, admission of Red China to the UN. That did happen, if I remember correctly. Set up East and West Germany as separate states in spite of Khrushchev's promise in 1955 to settle the German question. Prolong the conferences to ban atomic tests, because you could tell that the context of this is that they were really trying to keep the United States from using a nuclear weapon again. Let's see. Allow all Soviet satellites individual representation in the UN. Let's see. Promote. This is something that's happening right now in 2026. Promote the UN as the only hope for mankind. If its charter is rewritten, demand that it be set up as a one world government with its own independent armed forces. Some communist leaders believe the world can be taken over as easily by the UN as by Moscow. Sometimes these two centers compete with each other, as they are now doing in the Congo. Well, shit. That was, let's see, the UN I guess you could make an argument that the UN were competing in some part with the World Economic Forum. Let's see. Resist any attempt to outlaw the Communist Party, which did not happen here. Well, the Communist Control Act of 1954 really needs to be fucking enforced. Oh my God. Do away with all loyalty oaths. Because gotta give all loyalty to the state. Continue giving Russia access to the U.S. Patent Office. Was that a thing? Capture one. Oh my God in heaven. Here it is. Capture one or both of the political parties in the United States.
It gets better.
Use technical decisions of the courts to weaken basic American institutions by claiming their activities violate civil rights.
Civil Rights Act. There you go.
Oh my God. Oh my God. You know what? I think send me the link to this, because I think we've got our reading for I've got another reading for this week. Oh my God.
Yeah, and this was published January 10th, 1963. So this is this was goals that they put forward in 1963. And I mean, number 30 is discredit the American founding fathers, present them as selfish aristocrats who had no concern for the common man. Eliminate all laws and procedures which interfere with the operation of a communist apparatus. There's one in here about present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy.
Oh
Who's doing
my
that?
God!
Yep. Break down cultural standards of morality by promoting pornography and obscenity in books, magazines, motion pictures, radio, and TV. Yep.
Break down all culture. Good Lord!
Look at the go up to 23. I think it was as a
scroll. Yeah. Chase is controlling.
Control. Go ahead.
No, you read it, dude.
Control art critics and directors of art museums. Our plan is to promote ugliness, repulsive, meaningless art.
Yep.
I mean, we can.
I'm telling you,
mission
this
accomplished.
whole
Oh my God!
Discredit and eventually dismantle the FBI. Yep. Discredit the family as an institution. Encourage promiscuity and easy divorce. Right.
Yeah.
So
abolish the nuclear family.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. And so all of these things have been tenets of the Democratic Party.
Internationalize the Panama Canal. Overthrow all colonial governments before native populations are ready for self. Oh my God. Emphasize. Oh my God. Nino, 41. emphasize the need to raise children away from the negative influence of parents, attribute prejudices, mental blocks, and retarding of children to suppressive influence of parents.
Yeah, it's real, dude. So, like,
retarding is the right word.
It is. When I talk about active measures, and then you've obviously seen the video of Yuri Bezmenov, right?
Of course, yeah,
right. So that he kind of talks about this, but this is all the same plan that the Soviet Russia started pushing for during the Cold War when they had everyone has these, go to hell plans, except for the United States, apparently, of what they're going to do to continue fighting against the United States even if they lose. So when the Soviet Union crumbled, active measures is still an active policy within the KGB and still being pushed by the Russian Federation as if it was official policy from day one. So all these things, when the whole and they use this in propaganda. They use the Russia hoax thing, and then they push that so hard, the Russia, that now you have a bunch of people on the right that are sensitized to that, and they're like, oh, you're just going to say it's just Russia because that's what the left does. Well, it is Russia. It is the CCP. Also, they have a massive part of it, and then now we're also getting hit by propaganda from not only Iran but from the other Gulf states that are supposedly our allies, because Islamists have a goal. And I'm not saying that that's sanctioned 100% by these governments over there, but there are powerful people within all the Gulf states and Middle Eastern countries that want the same thing. An Islamist that is pushing, Islamic theocracy or Sharia law wants the same thing essentially as the communist or as the fascist or as the socialist. They all have a little bit different outcome at the end, but the means to getting there is destroying the American right and destroying the Constitution and what is holding America together. So it's all a process.
And a lot of this, the ball was started rolling in the 60s. So Russia doesn't even need to do that much. They might not even be that involved at all anymore, because it's already a self. They indoctrinated and tricked. They have a bunch of useful idiots in the academia and journalism from the 60s and 70s, and then it just kept on. The ball keeps rolling every year. New students with Marxist professors, so anti-American professors, critical race theory professors, women's studies, which became, basically anti-men studies, now gender studies. This is all self-perpetuating now, whether or not China or Russia or anybody else funds anything, which they are. But so it's not even a conspiracy theory. You can see it yourself. Just look at what's going on in universities and Hollywood now as well. Hollywood's frequently pushing this down your throat with the also the diversity quotas and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's even more than most people think. So if anyone read the book The Martian by Andy Weir, right? In the book, China helps a little bit with the problem, that's happening and all this stuff. But they're not the savior. But in the movie, in the Hollywood version, China, gives us their rocket that they were going to use for some other means. Like there's some altruistic government who just only cares about mankind, and they would totally just help out the United States like this. They push that in the movie, and there's none of that's in the book. So that was all added to Hollywood, for effect. And it's the same. It's kind of the same way that all these military films are highly subsidized by the U.S. government, and they all have these other little themes in it. I mean, Top Gun Maverick, they took off one of the patches he was wearing, the Taiwanese patch, because the CCP didn't like it. If you go back to the Ron remake, it was supposed to be China that was the occupier, that came in and occupied the United States, because they're the only country with they couldn't do it, right? So we could talk about that all day long, like strategic level warfare. They couldn't actually do it, but they're the only country that has the manpower to potentially try to do it if they could somehow get past some of our defenses. But so they had to switch it to North Korea because they wanted the film to sell in China, and the Chinese government wasn't going to let it come if they had China as the bad guys. So it's infiltrated every aspect of our society at this point.
What's that movie with the guy with the metal face from the Crusades? King Baldwin,
Kingdom of Heaven.
Oh, Kingdom of Heaven.
Yeah, even that.
Great
I just watched that. Yeah, it's great, but I watched it for the first time like I don't know, like a year ago or something, because I see it pop up all the time in that one scene where he's talking to Salahuddin or whatever the hell his name is. Mm-hmm. But even that movie, like I watched it and they kind of portray the Muslims as very honorable victims of aggression from the crazy Knights Templar guy, which maybe there's some truth to that, some of that in that specific situation. I don't know the full story, but they make it seem like it's like if they wouldn't even do anything if it wasn't for the crazy Knights Templar Christian extremists, like modern day Pete Hegseth, I guess, or something like that would be what people would want to point to now, or at least that's how the media likes to portray it, or the leftists would. And it's like, and they, and the guy's so honorable and reasonable, and it's like, how much do they talk about, or certainly how much does most of any kind of Hollywood depiction of this or any kind of university education would talk about, like how many of the countries were taken over by how many Christian nations were taken over by the invading Muslims, right? And the warlord who was Muhammad, and then his followers afterwards, and how they took over parts of Europe, even Spain. And it's like, but they make it sound like it was a complete just Christian aggression. Christians are warlords, and the religion of peace was just, how do you think it's spread all over the world? So it's there's so many examples of it, whether it's, trying to make the, like it says in that list, making the founding fathers look like they're just pure slave owners, aristocrats, they're racist pieces of shit. And we don't really have any reason to respect them, or like the 1619 Project bullshit. The list goes on and on. Like there's been a truly attempted and in some ways successful cultural revolution, Maoist cultural revolution, since 2014-ish at least. And of course 2020 was probably the peak of it, George Floyd summer and that. So that's been just tearing down the statues, right? That's Maoist, getting rid of the four olds. Changing the names, like Abraham Lincoln School, changing the name of it. I think they had a bunch of things like that going on, and I'm surprised they didn't change the state of Washington's name or Washington D.C.'s name.
Changing the state of Minnesota's flag.
Yeah, yes, to basically a Somalian flag, right?
Yeah,
it's so many examples of it.
Yep.
Oh boy, man, there's so much here. So let's get into this last thing. I shouldn't say this last thing because we probably got something else to talk about. The woke right. Earlier this week, on Cinco de Mayo of all days, everybody's favorite little Mexican little Fed Mexican, Nick Fuentes, basically came out and finally admitted what he has always been from the very beginning. This guy is a Democrat. He's just basically admitted. Shout to Laura Loomer, who broke this story. And she writes, the psyop of Nick Fuentes is now complete. In case you were wondering why the New York Times has been glorifying him and he is botted on social media, according to Elon Musk, and why he was never arrested over J6 when people who did far less were, he is a Democrat and just admitted to being a moderate Democrat on his show. And if you don't believe me, if you don't believe her, in the words of a certain former FBI director who needs to be in fucking prison right now, Lordy, there's a tape.
I care about affordability. I care about foreign interventions. I care about the border. I'm a non-woke moderate Democrat. I think the GOP needs to be destroyed. I think the corrupt criminal government of Trump needs to be slowed down. We need to impeach the orange. It's time to put it in a peach. Trump needs to be placed inside of a crystal. He needs to be impeached. This fat orange, tiny hands needs to be impeached. And then in 28, no Vance, no Rubio. We have to burn down the whole party.
Well, good luck with that, man.
And there it is.
Good luck with that. Are you guys going to put out AOC versus Rubio?
Oh, please. I want to see that debate.
I want to see that so badly.
Begging for it, bro. Begging.
Any of them, honestly, but definitely AOC would be funny, man. That'd be so funny.
I've been saying
your
that
thoughts,
this was a
dude.
leftist op. Yeah, this was a leftist op for literally weeks after Charlie's death, because that's when it all started getting really pushed. I mean, Candace Owens was saying it was Israel literally the next day. And there's already been, so I remember, and I talked to, I don't know if you know Max Nordo, his account on here, but back in the day, you know, I used to be pretty critical of Trump, especially after COVID and some of the things that, you know, we could talk about that all day long. He got misled, whatever, you know, at the end of the day, you're still in charge of the country and you still are the one making the decision. So when you make a bad decision, I'm going to criticize you for it. And it is what it is. But you know, that was what we used to talk about on X back then. You know, it was these kind of normal things, and then COVID happened, and then really, you know, everyone's united against how bad the Biden administration was and how terrible everything was under the Biden administration. That's why you saw this big tent, you know, come together of what I like to call, you know, there was populists involved. There, you know, you did have conservatives, you had GOP, you had some rhinos, but they're all, you know, the moderate leftists, you know, they're the moderate Democrats. I'll say that. I don't want to say leftists because leftists are a little bit farther. But your moderate Democrats, you know, they all kind of joined together to fight back against the terribleness that was the Biden administration. But then after October 7th, 2023, the propaganda that started getting pushed against Israel is one of those things that I noticed pretty quickly. And part of that is because I'm just a history geek and I love going through history and learning all the things about it. And so the Protocols of Elders of Zion was something that I had already, you know, done significant amount of study on. And then I start seeing all these talking points that are literally from the Protocols, which this was written in 1903, by the way. This was the Protocols were it's the most reproduced form of propaganda in history, maybe other than the Quran. But you know, we'll leave that for another day. But it goes through, you know, that there's a cabal of these evil Jews and they rule all media and banking and all the things. So all these things that you're hearing today, right? You're hearing everybody say this stuff now. And I was like, so I'm seeing these people push this stuff. And I'm like, what? Like, okay, yeah, there's a few Jewish people that they're not even practicing Judaism. They're not like practicing Jews, and they have nothing really to do with Israel. They just may have some Jewish ethnicity in them at somewhere in their history. But now all of a sudden they're part of some cabal that rules the world secretly. You know, less than 0.2% of the population somehow rules 8 billion people. And then all this push started happening, and I'm like, dude, why? Like, this is stupid. That's not real. None of this is real. And so I noticed that, you know, back in 23, and I've been pushing against that ever since. And you know, I mean, I've been called every name you can be called for it, and I don't really care. I mean, I'm a Christian, but I also don't like lies, and I don't like propaganda because it's damaging. And then, you know, right after Charlie Kirk, it really ramped up. Then the push was huge, and then you start seeing all these other the Hodge twins joined in on it. JP Sears. Dude.
What was that about with the Hodge twins? Because like not to cut you off, but like a lot of this stuff I'm still like learning about. So talk to me a little bit about the Hodge twins, because like I said, I know nothing about those guys. I know they follow me on X. But tell me a little bit about them.
I mean, they were, you know, diehard MAGA for years and years, all the way through, even, you know, starting back in 2016, and then especially for the push to get Trump reelected in 24. And then all of a sudden, you know, just like right after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, you saw all these people on the right immediately start pushing against Trump and saying, like, we didn't get mass deportations, which again, this started in the Fuentes, the Candace Owens, the Tucker Carlson camp. And then it kind of just filtered down from there. And you know, they all just kind of joined in on this messaging, because I'm not saying that they're all captured or I'm not saying that, they were compromised or getting paid off or whatever, but you know what I think there's a lot of these big influencers that are audience captured or metric captured, like I like to say.
Right.
They say something, or they ask a question, or they do a show, or they do whatever, and they push it, and it gets a ton of likes and engagements and all this stuff, and they're like, oh, and they get that immediate feedback. And so then they're like, well, maybe we need to talk about this more. And then they talk about it more. And then it just becomes, now that's a part of their belief system. And we've seen it with, like Nate from Valhalla VFT has done the same thing. It's just audience capture. It's just, they see that if they do the show on this specific topic and then they're going to get retweeted by Ian Carroll and Candace Owens and all these other people, and they're going to get their bot networks to push them, they're going to get more money out of it. And so again, the Hodge twins did the same thing. We saw like Evan Kilgore, who was a TPUSA guy a few years ago, went to Israel and talked about how amazing it was and how much he loved Israelis and blah, blah, blah. And then right after Charlie Kirk dies, all this, he was actually a little bit before, but he started going crazy after that part. But they're all of a sudden, Israel's the worst place ever. Jackson Hinkle went there and now it's terrible. Jackson Hinkle hates it and he's a full blown communist. So they've created this ecosystem where these really big accounts are, if you say something that is in line with what they're pushing, they're probably going to see it and they're probably going to push you. And then you're just going to get more engagements out of it. And I've seen, numerous of these big influencers jump on this same bandwagon. And
that's where a lot of the energy is too. It's like it's like a radical energy, right? Like young kids, young angry people.
They want to blame somebody. They want to blame somebody. And so, who's been the easiest scapegoat in the history of mankind? The Jewish people. They have always been the scapegoat from every. Like, you go all the way back into the medieval times. You go back even farther. When you go back into the biblical times, same thing, right? Like. It's easy messaging, and it's easy for these people to jump on this bandwagon. And then it's just, they don't understand. Again, like I'll ask people, I'll be like, okay, so you think that they own all the media. Okay. So tell me, which media do they own? They're like, all the big ones. I'm like, which one? Like who's the specific people that own these, the media, right? Or who owns BlackRock, or who owns State Street, or who owns all these? Like, is it all Jewish people? Is that what you're telling me right now? So this is just Jewish cabal of people, and then like show me who it is, show me the reality, and then they'll push forward. And what I like to call, it's just like picture propaganda. It's face propaganda. They put a bunch of faces, right? So a bunch of different people, and the Nazis used to do this. So anybody that's ever studied any of the Nazi stuff or any of the Soviet propaganda stuff as well, they'd create a graphic. And they put all of these people's pictures, and then they put like the Jewish star, the Star David on their head, and then they'll just say like they're Jewish and they want this and this and this, and it's all, most of it's lies, right? Like some of the people may be Jewish, but not everyone in the picture is. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because no one will check it. Like no one's going to go do the actual analysis to be like, oh, was this person that? They're just going to see this graphic and they're going to be like, oh, look at all these. Our government is totally compromised by all of these people that are beholden to Israel because they got a $60,000 PAC donation to their reelection, or to their campaign, which it's the dumbest thing, and like it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like they're pushing against Ed against Thomas Massey right now, and they're like, he took $60,000 from AIPAC, and I'm like, do you think this dude really sold out for $60,000? Like his campaign has made $2 or $3 million. You think that 60 grand is what is like, that's what's controlling him? Like, it's just, none of it actually makes sense when you go into it and you actually like think about it, but people are just too lazy to do that. And that's the main fight right now. It's just like, hey, just think about this critically for like 2 seconds, right? How much money has Thomas Massey gotten in this campaign cycle from outside of, Kentucky? How many, why is he getting mass donations from California? Why, like what's that about? Why are we not asking those questions? Not like he's like, I take zero money from AIPAC. Well, okay, that's fine. I mean, AIPAC's an American company, American organization full of Americans, funded by Americans, and by law can't have any outside foreign money in it because it's a pact, right? So all the, you know, like, but we're going to just disregard all of these actual facts. And we're going to message it this way, that if you've taken anything from AIPAC, then now you're a Israeli spy, or they control you somehow. It's just, it's asinine. It makes no sense.
This is what I want to know. This is what I want to know. Because
no, Isaiah, what I want to know first is, you know, Chase, you clearly are getting, you know, you're clearly getting that Israeli shill money, right? You're getting that, you're getting that Israeli shill paycheck, and like Isaiah and I have yet to receive this Israeli shill paycheck. So I'm like, I don't know if you could talk to some of your friends.
Yeah. I told him, I tried to call the Mossad and let him know, like,
still waiting on James Lindsay, because Lindsay went over to fucking Israel, and all he came back with was some salt rocks from the Dead Sea. You motherfucker, where's my $7,000?
Yeah, I want $7,000. I want to be invited to the Cedar or Shabbat or whatever. And because, you know, I'm over here making these points like you've been making, right? And I still haven't received my money, so come on.
Yeah, but hold on a second. Now you got Master Shake here again. Like,
what's he gonna say?
This guy honestly wants to be like part of the show now. So he says, "Diehard MAGA can't be anti-war, huh?" And then he said this to one of your earlier points. Chase is, "Oh, it's bots, all right." Such straw man cope. I mean,
it's mostly bots.
It is.
There are a few real people. I can always tell the real people or the bots. When you comment the same thing, when this person has commented the same thing on a bunch of other people's, and they only do replies, they don't post anything to their own thing, and then they only have like 20 followers. Like, you know what? You just keep being retarded, bro, and just think that they're real people, and they actually believe what you believe, dude. You're super smart. You're definitely the smartest guy I've ever met.
Yes, Brad 543267895428.
Yeah, like that's some Pakistani,
from India.
That's some Pakistani or some dude in Bangladesh, and he has like 15. He has 15 computers up, and he's just hitting send. And then this dude's like,
smell like curry all of a sudden. Why did it smell like curry all of a sudden? I do not understand. No, but he's saying of another unfortunate captured opinion, completely this is okay. Shake. Here's what I'm gonna say to you, right? Just because you aren't a bot and might actually believe the shit that these people have been pushing, doesn't mean that everybody else who's pushing it aren't bots or aren't bots. I hate to say it, but it's like, dude, dead internet theory is a real thing, whether you want to accept it or not, bro. I mean, there are people out here whose entire persona, whose entire political worldview is being shaped by bots and foreign actors. I'll admit, I kind of fell to some of that. Like in the last, my last years of being a Democrat, I absolutely fell for a bunch of propaganda that Democrats and outside actors pushed on social media and elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, propaganda works. It works, and for people that don't know what they're looking for, they're gonna fall for it a lot of the times. And that's why, again, the American right, isn't perfect by any means. And I'm not saying everybody on the right is perfect, but the American right generally wants to, maintain the Constitution in the way that it is. They want to maintain the sovereignty of our nation. They want to maintain the fact that the U.S. is the best and the country that's leading from the front. So the rest of the world's not telling us what to do. We're telling the rest of the world what to do. And I think those views are actually very American. I feel like if you want a multipolar world that aligns with what communist Russia wants, maybe you need to rethink your own ideology a little bit and, maybe be a little more pro-American. I don't know. And the whole war thing, you know what? Finally, the United States is using our military to its full capacity, and then also taking a whole of government approach to this strategic level warfare that we're looking at right now, where the State Department's on the same page, where everyone's working in cohorts, to where the planning, from the planning process to the execution process, is we are going to do the most amount of damage to this country that we are at war with in the least amount of time possible, and we're going to get it done, and we're going to move on, and we're not going to get caught in a nation building in the stupidity of the cycle that we saw in GWAT and that thought process. And it's changed, and you can see that it's changed, and it's not the same kind of engagements that we've had before, but still people are like, no war, no matter what. Well, guess what, guys? You can't be the leader of the world. You can't lead, all the other nations, and you can't inflict your will if you're not willing to show the strength that, if you want peace through strength, you have to be willing to show that strength. Exactly. And the willingness to use it. And so it'd be just like if you wanted to be the top dog in your little like school or wherever you're going, and someone's going to press against you, and if you don't push back, eventually, if someone was bullying or someone was doing something to you consistently and you never push back against it, then you've lost the lead. You're no longer in charge.
I believe it was Adam Carolla who said this many years ago. He said, without competition, there can be no excellence.
Absolutely.
I mean, and that's honestly how I see this. Like we are living, like, whenever these nations who want to take over the United States, whenever these people want to, to have like nuclear weapons, okay, and we know for a fact that not only do they want nuclear weapons, but they would use them on us and any other Western nation in existence. I'm sorry, I don't understand how it benefits. How is it America first for us to not get involved? Like it was America first. How is it not America first to last year go and blow up Iran's nuclear capability that led to all of the stuff that's happening right now over there? They have no navy. They have nothing. Like, that's peace through strength. It is America first, in my opinion. It's America first to not have to make sure that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon to blow New York City up.
Even without the nuclear,
I live in the greater New York area, bro. Like, that shit's real. Go ahead. I'm sorry. No,
take the nuclear aspect out of it completely, and you still have 47 years of proxy aggression and the killing of American soldiers, the killing of American interests, and just the destabilization of the entire Middle East, of all the Gulf states, of Northern Africa, and everything else that Iran is guilty of. And people they share these graphics and they're like, how many countries has Iran attacked? 0. And I'm like, well, Iran doesn't attack people straight out from their own military forces. That's why they have the Quds Force, which then is the foreign aspect of their proxy wars for Hamas, for Hezbollah, for the Houthis in Yemen, for ISIS, or not ISIS, for the different Shia forces they have in Iraq and Syria, and then for all the different Shia forces they're pushing through Northern Africa right now. And all of this is also it's a tool for China. That's another thing people don't understand. China's Belt and Road Initiative is economic warfare, and it's their goal to take over the world's trade. And they were using Iran's proxy forces to do this by creating chaos and by pushing these especially Northern African countries into positions where they had to fall back on China for support because of what was happening. The United States couldn't get involved or couldn't do certain things with some of these countries. And so people don't realize that too. So if you're looking at back out and go to a 30,000 foot view of strategic level warfare and great power competition, Iran was an actor for Russia and China against the West and against the United States and against some of the Gulf states and the alliances they have with the West. And they have been consistently, especially for the last 2 decades, but really for the last 47 years, but they've been consistently creating chaos on purpose to help China move forward on the world stage. And if you don't recognize that, then you're not recognizing the reality of the situation, and you're not even looking at the situation in a way that allows you to understand why we're in this predicament that we're in now, right? So I showed a graphic. I shared a graphic a few, I don't know, it was days or a week ago or whatever, but it was the world trade from 2000 until 2024. And in 2000, the U.S. dominated world trade, and most of the world trade was us and the rest of the world. And now by 2024 is completely dominated by China and the Belt and Road Initiative and what they've pushed forward economically. And that's what we're really doing here. So Iran, one, you have a nation state, a sponsor of terror that has proxy forces all throughout, like I said, through Northern Africa, through the Middle East, and through all the Gulf states, and has been running destabilization ops for decades now, and has been backing every single terrorist organization in those areas. You have that, and then you have the choke points that control most of the oil that goes into Asia. So not just China, but all of Asia as a whole. 50% of the crude that goes to China goes through the Strait of Hormuz. 30% of all their liquid natural gas goes through the Strait of Hormuz. So what we just did by hitting Iran the way we did and decimating Iran the way we did, and then showing that we could lock down the Strait of Hormuz, we could lock down the Strait of Malacca, and we could still have a presence in the Pacific and in the South China Sea, and there's nothing China could do about it. And even though we didn't completely shut off their supply lines, we could have. And if we were to stop 50% of China's oil going to them from the Middle East, which is crucial to their entire, not just their industry and the fuel aspect of their lives, but also that's how they make fertilizer. That's how they grow their food. So their entire ecosystem would collapse within 60 to 90 days. So all of this was a show from Trump to show we could go into Venezuela, we could establish our own reserves in our own hemisphere over here and easily take control of that. And then, which was also an actor working for Iran, Hezbollah had significant weapons in Venezuela as well. Most people don't know about that. And
Russia too, I think, was doing
Russia,
something
yeah.
as well. I think.
Yeah,
and Cuba.
Russia and Cuba. The crude that was coming from Venezuela was going to Russia and to China passing through sanctions and getting sold at far lower rates. A bunch of there's so many issues. There's so many different angles of why this happened and why it was important for this to happen. But for people that don't understand strategic level warfare and understand great power competition, they don't even know how to start to even talk about this stuff. So this was really all a push against China. And that's what I've been trying to tell people is like, yeah, Iran was the battlefield, but the actual enemy we are fighting is China.
Right. And that's to me, that's a very smart strategy. And it's like, this is deterrence, right? You go in and take over and decapitate Venezuela. You kidnap their Maduro, their dictator and his wife, and like that in a night. And it's something that's never been seen before, probably in military history, anything like that. And you just look over and you look at China and Russia and be like, see that, keep that in mind. And then as far as, of course, the energy, the oil we have there that we can command them now, and we can take that if we want, and we can sell that at a premium or raise prices if we want to send it or make sure China or Russia don't get it. We could do things like that. It's leverage, right? And then you have and then same thing with Iran now, which you just explained very well why they're so important to China and Russia in certain ways as well. And it's like these are deterrents. These are like ways that you could put pressure on them without having to have a big war with China, for example, and maybe make them think twice about invading Taiwan and have better negotiations. So, and I think at a relatively small cost. I mean, what is it like? Last I checked, I think it was like 13 American lives lost. Probably more than that now. Probably under 100, I imagine, but maybe not. Maybe they're being underreported, which is obviously you don't want to lose anybody. What is the numbers? Latest numbers?
We haven't lost any in direct combat, right?
Really?
So I mean, the losses we've had were from refueling operations that went wrong, different issues like that. I mean, Kuwait shot down 3 of our fighter jets on accident. So there's those kind of issues that happen.
Right.
And then some of it was training exercises, which we lose service members in training exercises in the United States every year, and that's part of the and that's another thing I tell people, like, we join up with the knowledge that something bad could happen, and then that's just part of the daily grind of, hey, we're going to go do some stuff. A lot of it's going to be a little bit dangerous, and if it's our time, it's our time, and that sucks, and we obviously don't want anything bad to happen to our service members, but at the same time, we have a job to do, and that job has to be done, and it has to be done in the best way possible. And what we're seeing, this is what angers me about this whole situation is, again, we're finally seeing our military being utilized the way that it is supposed to be utilized. We are finally seeing our higher level military planners coming up with the best possible plans and then executing them and coordinating them in ways that allows our guys to get in, do their jobs, and get out and come back home and see their families. And that's exactly what it's supposed to be like. That's exactly what's supposed to happen. And we had GWAT that's put a lot of sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, and you have a lot of veterans that are, kind of jaded because of what happened with GWAT and how those protracted wars happened. But that's not what this is. And if it turns into a protracted war, then I would be against that, right? I would be against, hey, no, we should not nation build. I don't think nation building was ever a thing that was going to work. We were never going to get, the 108 tribes in Afghanistan to agree on a centralized government that was, working through democracy, which is not something that they even believe in. They don't care about democracy. They don't want democracy. They have local tribal leaders that they believe in, and that's all they care about. So you can't, and it's kind of like a little bit of a just American elitism, I guess you could say, to be like, hey, we're going to come in and you're going to love our type of government because we love our type of government. Like, no, how about this? How about we do what we just did in Iran? We decimate their military forces, and to a point where now this what was a restricted battle space, and you couldn't have any unconventional warfare going on because the risk was far too high of discovery. But now we can actually get some assets in there. We can get some things happening on the ground. We can start helping train the Iranian people on what they need to do to have a successful insurgency, and to get the arms that they need and the munitions they need, and to work with the underground and the auxiliary in key access and key infrastructure, and how what's the best way to actually give the Iranian people the best chance to take their country back. And I think that's what we're seeing here. And so from this standpoint, everyone who's like pro military and pro just American exceptionalism at all should be like, this is amazing what's happening right now. Like it really, really is. And it shows the massive capabilities that we have. Like we locked down but four of the major choke points in the world while running 13,000 sorties in a 30-day period, and still maintaining enough presence in the Pacific and in the Atlantic to where no one else could felt like they could do anything against us while we were doing all this. So we just sustained operations while locking down most of the choke points in the world, and decimated an entire military force of a country that's been building its military capabilities for 50 years. And that's all they've been doing. They've been entrenching.
Entire military, their entire Navy is at the bottom of the bottom of the Red Sea. Gone.
Yeah.
So like, I want to see the praise for how awesome all of this was. And we're getting a bunch of black pill, and we're getting a bunch of people that are like, gas went up 47 cents and I'm pissed. I'm like, it went up above $5 a gallon in most places under Biden. And
there was no war. There was no war. There was no exactly.
And sometimes there's costs. Like there's costs to, like, this could be, this, it sounds to me, it always seemed to me that like it was worthwhile to do this. And again, like, if you have a terrorist supporting regime, somebody who's responsible for at least like 1,000 American troops died, it's like there shouldn't be no tolerating that at all. Like, I think, like, I don't care. Like, if the cost, even unless it's gonna like kill all of us or something like that, or a huge amount of people, it's like, if you could do something like this and be like, all right, you're not doing that anymore. and there's gonna be severe consequences to killing our troops and trying to pull shit. Like I love what Trump did with Soleimani, for example. Like we got to be doing more things like that. There's somebody who's just continuously masterminding terrorist attacks and going around the world. It's like that guy's got to go, man. He's got to go immediately. But I just want to say one thing, Isaiah. Like, so I'm sorry, I know I'm yapping a lot, but to your point, Chase, like CNN, MSNBC, you go on these like different liberal point of view, like I'm sure like the Daily Show, like you go on there and they the words they use are like it's a disaster. You know, in Iran, like, is this whole mission is a disaster? This war is a disaster. When's it gonna end? I'm like, motherfucker, it's been 8 weeks or so, you know, or maybe 10 weeks. It's like they act like it's Iraq. It's like Iraq or Afghanistan. It's like, this is Iran we're talking about, which was one of our biggest enemies, top 3, I'd say, for the last fucking 50 years or so. And it's and we already beat them militarily pretty much. Now it's just the point of just figuring out how we're going to finish the job. It's like we are very far away from a disaster or quagmire. Like I understand like having questions like, all right, you know, when do you think this will end? Whatever. Like, yeah, gas prices. Okay, that's fine. But to portray this as it is like, you know, this is one of the worst things you could do. It's a complete mistake. Trump had no idea what he was doing. They always say like everything that happens, he had no way of foreseeing it, or he just didn't think about it. It's like, he didn't think that gas prices were going to go up. Word. Again, nobody here.
This is why we pushed the timetable forward on purpose for this to get this done now, so that, you know, by the time midterms come along, gas prices will be back down. And 20% of the world's oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz. Only about less than 2% is even used by us. So the Strait of Hormuz is not affecting us. It is affecting the price a little bit right now, but that's also going to go down as the UAE is leaving BRICS. So that's another benefit of this whole situation. The UAE is leaving BRICS. And because the UAE has wanted to up production for a long time, and BRICS was stopping them from doing that. So what we're seeing here is, especially if we get, you know, and again, not everything's perfect. You can do everything 100% right and everything correct, and it still not work out exactly how it, you know, you want it to, or it should, right? It's just not the way the world works. That's not how reality works. But if we see, if Iran comes out of this with a government that is, it doesn't even have to be, you know, a democracy. Like that would be great, cool if that's what they want. But even if it's a monarchy, even if Pavli takes over, right, and then they get a monarchy again, at least if they open diplomatic relations with the West and with the United States again, and they become a country that joins the fold, that's no longer just a puppet for China, that is a huge win. People don't understand how big of a win that. Now we're going to see a stabilized. Yeah, we're going to see a stabilized Middle East and stabilized Gulf. Like, we're going to see oil drop significantly. We're going to see production go up in some of these countries and it could even lead to the break apart of BRICS, which would then change the entire way that we look at the whole fuel problem in the world. And this is another thing that was happening during all of this that a lot of people are ignoring, is the United States oil production has skyrocketed.
Yes.
And now we have, and because it has skyrocketed, and because the demand for United States oil has skyrocketed, we're going to get more production. We're going to drill more, and we're going to be doing a lot more business on the world stage, because we disrupted those supply chains in the rest of the world. And now they always want to self-correct when something, so like if a supply chain gets broken or cut off for a little bit, they want certainty. And what Trump is giving them now is certainty. Like, we have the capabilities to do this. And while he's doing that, he's deregulating the entire process for drilling in the United States, which is not getting talked about either. And so all of these things are happening, and some of them take some time, right? We are ramping up production, and we are going to be producing a lot more here in the next 2 years than the United States has ever produced in history. And so these are all really great things. And it's going to, I'm pretty optimistic, and I'm pretty happy with what's going on. So.
But even before all of this, right? A lot of people don't really talk about or appreciate the fact that we went to Venezuela first, because Venezuela was the head of the Hydra, so to speak, for Iran and China and Russia's operations on this side of the world. Okay. Yep. You mentioned the Belt and Road Initiative. The Belt and Road Initiative, I could not, like, you would be shocked at how many roads and bridges and tunnels were built by the Chinese in nearly every country in the West Indies, in the Caribbean, Jamaica included. I was down there a couple years ago. I saw these roads in Jamaica being built. The fact that I saw the built roads, rather, like there's a giant expressway that leads right to one of Jamaica, like the port of Kingston. That it's real. Like they would not have as many roads through as many parts of the island of Jamaica as they do without the Belt and Road Initiative. That's real. The
Costa Rica too.
Yeah,
I've been down in Costa Rica. You know, it's where my dad's from, and they got I think they helped China build their stadium, their soccer stadium, the main soccer, and I'm sure they've done a lot more than that down there. So,
but even but like
plenty of other countries. Yeah, they're in our backyards.
Yeah, people don't understand how critical getting Maduro out of Venezuela and getting him, and really like freeing taking back control of the Panama Canal. All of these things leading, we would not be able to have the operations that we have in Iran without going to Venezuela first.
Yep.
Like everything has made sense over the last 12, 14 months or so that all of these things collectively have been happening. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like there are cooler heads that are prevailing and things are actually getting done that are benefiting. All of this is America first.
Yep.
And I said this when it first happened. But
shouldn't be and to your point too, Chase and Isaiah, like shouldn't we be doing these things when we have the strength to do it? Like when we have the power to do it before it's too late, when they have too much leverage, they're set up too much. Cuba is next. That'd be great. If we could do it and made it so easy, of course we should do it. Like, because these guys, like, China especially is creeping along and trying to get as much power and influence as it can. And we have to undermine them. They've been undermining us for decades. We have to undermine them at every point so we can prevent, we can make it so war is just not it's just not even an option for them, hopefully.
Right.
Rather than being like, well, let's see, maybe we can take these guys. Maybe we got the oil from Venezuela and Iran. We got this going. We got this. We got that. And it's like, no, you don't. So now what?
I really don't. Well,
yeah,
because
they don't.
To the point about Cuba being next, I do want to just just share this real quick from the Manhattan Institute, Daniel DiMartino.
That's Rubio, right?
Is that Rubio? You know what? Oh shit, it is.
I think so.
Avery Schmitz reports from CNN, the United States has conducted at least 25 intelligence gathering flights off the coast of Cuba since early February.
Let's get them.
Cuba is next.
Kick the commies out. Monroe Doctrine, man. Kick them out of our hemisphere. Get the hell out of here.
We've got to. I'm sorry.
Get them out of here.
Getting Cuba, liberating Cuba from these fucking communists is, to me, of the greatest importance.
And it's great for the people too. For the Cuban people, the Venezuelan people,
absolutely,
for Iranian people. When if we are able to get some kind of regime change and help them. I heard that at least 80%. Chase, just to ask you, I don't know. You probably have insights in this. I heard at least 80% of Iranian people hate the regime, the Iranian regime. At least 80%. I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
It's a significant amount. The real problem is that there's about 11 different kind of, I don't even want to call them ethnic groups, but there's 11 different groups of people in Iran. And they all hate the Islamic Republic, but they also don't really know how to work together. And so that's one of the problems we're seeing, is because anytime you want to do a big push to overthrow an entrenched tyrannical government, you have to have some level of coordination. You have to have some, you can't just you can't just go one province at a time and just take it, because eventually they're going to kind of see the pattern of where you're going, and they're going to mass forces, and then they're going to destroy you. So it does have to be a well thought out process and a coordinated process. And I think that's what, the initial bombing campaign, 13,000 sorties, right? Like 13,000 sorties. We lost 2 aircraft in those sorties. So, and that's another thing too, people don't understand, is Iran was using a lot of systems developed in Russia and China. I'm not saying they were their priority systems, but they were some of their better systems that both of those countries have developed. And we decimated them, and we did 13,000 sorties and lost 2 aircraft. So what does that tell China now? It tells China that, guys, it doesn't matter how tough or how great you think you are. We walked right in, and we did whatever we wanted. And in what would be considered, controlled airspace, we basically controlled the air the entire time, and there was nothing you could do about it. So
it was China's missile defense system, I think, right? It did not work so well.
No, it didn't work at all. I mean, like the 2 aircraft we lost, we really only lost 1, because one of the other aircraft that we lost was in the rescue effort to get that other aircraft. So it's like, So really, it's only 1 out of those actual sorties that we did. So 13,
super efficient, man.
That, very efficient, very
the
efficient.
efficiency and the competence shown by the U.S. military is obviously unrivaled. But according to CNN, it's a disaster, and But I want to get back to Cuba. But while we're on the subject, so you think that we eventually are going to be able to arm the people of Iran to fight against, was it the IRGC or whatever? Do you think that's and if so, how would we do that? How are we going to get the arms in there to them?
We probably aren't. So the United States, we have never had that great of an intelligence presence inside of Iran, but the Gulf states and Israel do. So whether or not the unconventional, warfare that's happening is led from us, I can't tell you that. I don't know. I don't know that we have necessarily boots on the ground, even if they're special mission unit boots. But there are assets on the ground for sure from some of these countries in that area. And my hope is actually that they are, that the United States is telling some of these countries like, hey, Iran has been nothing but a hindrance and a chaos maker for your entire region for 50 years. Do something about it right now. We just destroyed all of their military capabilities. And now all they are is just a bunch of dudes with AKs. They don't have anything else left. They have very few capabilities that they can utilize. They have some drones that they've hidden. They have some missiles that they still have hidden, because again, what they did is they took all this money that they had, and it was all, they weren't helping their people. They weren't helping their economy. They weren't trying to build infrastructure. They weren't trying to build, cities like Tel Aviv. They were building bunkers and underground military establishments to push, munitions and to have weapons caches and all the things that they were doing. So we've destroyed most of them, but they still have some pop outs that they're going to use and they're going to try to affect things with. But again, what we've done now is we've destroyed all of, 90, I would say around 95% of their capabilities. So now we saw the UAE running sorties into there now. And so if the UAE is running sorties into there, that like they're doing, they understand that they're involved. And so that tells me that they definitely, some of these other Gulf state countries have some assets inside, and that's who's going to be getting armed and or helping them arm and helping them move in, because that's their area, that's their region. They know that region far better than we do. They're going to be able to navigate it, and they're going to be able to make the deals necessary to get the equipment and the munitions and the weapons into there. So yeah.
That would be fantastic, and I think I would be telling them if I was Trump or Israel, I'd be like, yo, why don't you guys can carve up some of this land in Iran, like come and conquer some of this land, especially if you have the same ethnicities or something, whether it's the Kurds or whoever. It's like this could be, you guys would go in and fight. You can win this part. You guys win that part. Maybe you get a little bit of oil here. I'll be trying to figure out like some kind of things to make it worth their while, and I'm sure a lot of those countries would love to do that to Iran. They've been probably thinking about it forever. and then like, then we can get the people to free themselves, and then they could keep their part, whatever it is. But I think there's plenty of reasons and incentives to do it, especially, because you don't want to deal with this regime if you're in that area. They've been raising hell for so long. So hopefully they could do that. And then, I wouldn't be against seeing, some sort of like Marine presence, like, or tax or something like that for special forces to help them at some point, if it means like that's going to be the death blow to the regime, I'm sure the media is going to go nuts and be like, oh, this, you can't do this. But if it's going to be like a quick, whether it's a week or 2 months or a couple months, and that's it. The regime's literally done at that point. And you arm the people, and then Iran could have a, something other than an Islamic authoritarian government, revolutionary government. Then that would be, I think that'd be phenomenal to not have to deal with them ever again. Really, hopefully. That's
not even the same ethnicity as they are. Like that,
are they not? Wait, is the Islamic regime not Persian?
No, they are.
What are
Arab. They are
They're
Arab.
They're Arabs.
Arabs.
They're Arabs who gentrified Persians with paleo communism, aka Islam.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Not even shout to Razor Fist, who was the first person I heard that actually made that connection. I want to make sure give
crazy.
Big man proper credit.
So go to Cuba, huh? We have something to say about Cuba. Sorry for derailing. I just want to get that out.
That's fine. No, that's cool.
Yeah.
Chase, I do have one last question for you. This has been fantastic. I mean, unless you would listen, you are more than welcome to come back, brother. This has been fantastic, a fantastic evening.
Yeah.
No, it's been great, man. Yeah, no, it's fun to talk about it all.
Yeah.
The left continues to lose power, and we've seen leftists lose so much power over the last several days, weeks, and months, despite their best efforts. Okay, we just had another, assassination attempt on the president, like 2 weeks ago going on, right? You're seeing a big increase, at least I've been seeing a big increase in leftists online throwing up their hands and just basically saying, you know what, we just got to start killing people. We got to start, we just have to start literally just saying it's time for violence. It's time to stop these people by any means necessary. And this is up to and including the brother, apparently, of the House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Hassan Jeffries, Hassan Kwame Jeffries. I guess he put his middle name there because Zoran made it popular. But he wrote here. He says
people with the name Hassan, man. God,
Jesus, there's so many.
Not a good record with people named Hassan.
Well, I mean, Hakeem either. Shit. He said John Brown understood that the only way to free America from the scourge of white supremacy was to get rid of white supremacists by any means necessary. He was right then. He is right now. And this is, again, the brother of Hakeem Jeffries.
He should be really mad at the
U.S. congressman is saying this shit. They're ready. The amount of people who are ready to go, the amount of leftists who are ready to go to war. And we've seen the John Brown gun clubs. We've seen this. We've seen Antifa murder several police officers and shoot several others.
We've seen Trantifa.
Yeah, we see Trantifa. Matter of fact, a shooting happened upstate New York, further upstate than where I'm at. Like, we're seeing this stuff happen, and it's starting to just ramp up more and more and more and more. I do want to get your thoughts on this, Chase, and then after I hear your thoughts, I want to share. I want to show you something else, because the eliminationist rhetoric is even being shown on CNN. So, what are you seeing, Chase? And should we prepare? And how prepared should Americans be for what these people actually want to do?
I mean, I'm 100% always carry with you, always have, don't ever let your safety or your family's safety be in anybody else's hands but your own, kind of person, because at the end of the day, you can call 911 and you can wait 15 minutes and maybe they'll get there, or but things usually unfold in a matter of seconds. So definitely, if you're on the right, especially if you're any kind of person that has any kind of following, or could be a target for something, definitely you should be carrying. You should be aware of your surroundings at all times and know what's going on. And these are calls to action. I mean, Hassan Piker put out the same thing, and then now they're mimicking. They're continuing this kind of messaging that we just have to kill them, whatever. And it's a call to action because they know they're losing, and they know that the ecosystem that they were building under Biden is being dismantled, and there's nothing they can do about it. And now, the SPLC gets indicted, and you see, what's about to come from all of that. I'm pretty sure the ADL is going to get indicted soon as well, and we're going to see a lot of these leftist organizations that have been doing a lot of terrible things for a long time finally get some justice out of it, and that, but. They're going to fight back, and one of the things that I always thought right after Trump won, and in 24, and it was kind of one of those, the left was more quiet about it than I thought they would be. Right, there wasn't, you didn't see the huge push like after 2016 of like this was a stolen election, blah blah blah. You didn't see like a lot of that same rhetoric, and so I kind of looked at that and I was like, it's because they have other things, up their sleeve that they're going to be pushing. And that's what we're seeing. And that's what we saw, that with all these different nonprofits that are pushing all these different things. And we know Data Republican has been mapping a lot of these ecosystems very well. You have the paid protesters, you have all of these things that are kind of linked. Cam Higbee that infiltrated the signal chats of these groups that were following around ICE agents and trying to disrupt them from being able to deport people, all the stuff, right? I do think that there is potential for it to go a little more kinetic, but I just don't know that I don't know. If they do, it's going to be bad because there's just too many people on the right with guns, and we actually know how to use them. That's the main thing, is like, all these people on the left that think that they're the toughest and the strongest, and just like this dude, this clown that tried to go assassinate Trump, and he watched John Wick a couple of times, and then probably played some Fortnite, and then he put on throwing knives and a bunch of other nonsense, and then he ran in with a shotgun. Like, what are you going to do with a shotgun, you idiot? Like, the stupidest thing I've ever. A lot of these people, we're going to see these people that are not prepared for this. But they're going to try to take it to that level. And so you still, but a bullet from a tranny is still just could be as deadly as a bullet from anybody else. So you got to be prepared for it. And again, like I said, just always maintain your own security and always kind of know your environment. If you're going to be walking around in a downtown area of a city or somewhere like that, like just kind of know, have that part of your brain that's switched on and you're looking around at all times to kind of just make sure that there's nothing out of the ordinary going on, because it wouldn't surprise me if we saw some direct actions and some kinetic pushes, especially if the midterms go how I think they're going to go now that the SCOTUS decision and all that's done. If we maintain, one or both of the House or the Senate, then I think then they really will start pulling out as many of the stops as they can, because they have no other options. Because if they don't win in 26, they definitely don't win in 28, right? The only way I see them winning in 28 is if they win in 26 enough to where they can completely hamstring the rest of the Trump administration. They can tie them up in courts and in impeachment proceedings over and over, just like they did after the midterms, after his first term. and really make the rest of his presidency a lame duck presidency where nothing gets done, because then that'll black pill even more people on the right, and it'll they'll push their propaganda endlessly about how nothing's getting done and everything's terrible, blah blah blah, and they'll blame it all on Trump. So the only way, and then that could lead to a something in 2028 happening with one of their candidates. But if we win the midterms, I don't see a candidate that they have that's competent enough or well-spoken enough or smart enough to go up against any of the guys that we're going to have running for 2028. And so it's an important election, but in 26, and I think with what we've seen recently, I think we're looking pretty good for it. So
same, because I like I said, if or like you said, you want to put AOC up against Marco fucking Rubio, AOC against Marco Rubio. Who the fuck else are you gonna run? You're gonna run let's see.
She's funny, man.
Eric Swalwell, that's over and done with. You're gonna run Kamala Harris again?
Katie Porter.
Katie Porter, like Jesus Christ. That's
Get out of my fucking shot.
That's the wine, dude. That is the wine mom lineup of 2028, bro. Kamala, can you imagine, bro? Kamala Harris and Katie Porter on the same.
Okay, I forgot about Kamala.
Like, bro, like they smell the Chardonnay. Like they
oh my god.
Chardonnay. Shake says, "Oh, it's Gavin." Oh, no, it's not. No, it's not. Gavin.
Listen, it might be. It might be.
They
might be Gavin.
Gavin Newsom. They might run Gavin Newsom because he's
gonna run. He'll run.
Well, I think the Democrats, if you want my honest opinion, I think the Democrats, as much as they don't want a white guy to run, as much as they've been preaching anti-white guy rhetoric for the last 10, 15 fucking years, they're going to run a white guy.
Yeah.
They're gonna do it.
If they run a woman again, man, because the woman they have, if they run a woman again, man, it's going to be another L. Like it's not because they're women necessarily. It's because it's progressive woke Democrat women.
Who's voting for Katie Porter, bro? Who's voting for Katie Porter? Who's voting?
AOC they've been trying to push AOC as the face for a while, and it's like I hope they don't realize that it's not going well, because it is not going well objectively.
Guys, who's voting for this?
Yeah, nobody.
Who's voting for that?
No,
that's AOC. Who's voting for
AOC?
AOC smiles like she's taking a shit. Okay, like literally, it's like something gigantic is coming out of her rear end. That's what she fucking looks like. She looks like she's straining to take a shit, like she's fucking constipated.
She sounds like a college. She sounds like a high school chick or a college chick.
And America, America, you want to put that in the Oval Office? Somebody who smiles like she's taking a shit. Like I don't get it, bro.
She has to bring Bernie Sanders out with her to help her out when she talks. Like she got to bring Daddy to work, Grandpa to work.
Bernie Sanders.
I don't think any of those people are going to run. I think they're going to try to pull a Obama out. Like how Obama just came out of nowhere. Before. So I think that's what
Polarico or something.
Yeah.
You think they're going to try to run Polarico?
I don't know who they'll bring, but I don't see AOC. I don't see Gavin, especially after Rufo is all over going through with Nick Shirley and them going through the fraud in California, and once all
Democrats don't they don't care. So he can win the primaries.
You're right. I just think it's all bullshit. I don't think
it's all right wing talking points and fraud or lies and misinformation. That's what they call it.
But what I'm hoping is that him and his wife, and so actually his wife is tied to the free diaper giveaway he just is doing. I don't know if you know about that.
Partner, you mean the
first part? Yeah, whatever.
The first part.
The ties that they have and how they've been using their nonprofits to get kickbacks from the government and from everything from his position and on. And I think you just can't hide those paper trails, no matter how hard you try. And in a federal grand jury is still a federal grand jury. So They can say whatever they want, and Democratic voters can say, "Oh, well, this is all right-wing stuff." But if a grand jury comes back and says, this is blatant fraud and fraud, waste, and abuse, and you used your position as governor to enrich yourself based on all of these findings, I don't know. We'll see.
How does a grand jury work? Is that a jury of your peers, or is that like a jury of judges? How does that work? Actually, I'm not sure.
It's the same. It would be the same pool of like a jury pool that would be for anything else. It's just just get pulled in.
Now the question is, if that's in LA, for example, or something, is that going to be a bunch of woke progressives that are in the bubble who are going to get them off? You know what I mean?
Well, there would still be grand jury selection, just like there would be, for anything else. So they would go through and they would dismiss the people that are like posting that they love Gavin no matter what. Like there's still a process to it all, and it would be like federal jurisdiction, so it wouldn't necessarily be straight from. Okay, I don't know.
I hope so.
What circuit it would actually be from or where it would come. But I know they could move it to a federal court where it would actually make sense that it could happen. So
it sucks. I do have, and I hope you're right, but I do have skepticism because there's so many activists, like far left activist judges and far left activist DAs and lawyers and attorney generals, and it's and then the people, like if the people are watching CNN and MSNBC all day, like they're going to be like, well, everything Trump's doing is fascism. And he's just trying to go after his political opponents, and this is all bullshit. And there's no way Gavin would do this. Democrats aren't like that,
right.
So,
the SPLC has a lot of power in the judicial and in the legal circles, and they got indicted. So
that's
from
a
good
grand
jury.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
It gives me hope. It gives me hope that there is enough people out there that are going to see the fraud and the crime for what it actually is, and
hope so.
Hopefully, do the right thing.
Hopefully there's some accountability, man, for once.
Chase, thank you, bro. What are you working
on? One more
on?
thing. I want one more question. I got a lot of talked about this guy. But let's talk about China. Let's talk about China. Unless you got to go, Chase. What happened? Like, what do you think the chances are? Because you're a military man, Green Beret. What do you think that the chances are? Like, we will actually go to like a hot war, kinetic war with China over Taiwan, for example. And how do you think that would go for China or the United States?
That's a great question. Yeah.
Now I don't think there's any chance of it, now that we've shown that we can cut off their oil supply, 50% of their oil supply without any issues. But people also like Taiwan is a natural fortress as well. It has its own strategic, terrain defenses. And if China were to take Taiwan, even without our help, they would lose a significant amount of military assets to actually take Taiwan. So I don't see them doing that with what we just shown, how we've just shown what we could do without even pulling. We still had an aircraft carrier strike group in the Pacific that could have reacted, in close enough to the South China Sea, where if they were to make a maneuver on Taiwan, we would have known about it, and we'd have been able to react in time for them to not be successful. And I think the war game scenarios that they've done with China trying to take Taiwan, they lose about 30% of their military force just in that one push alone, just to take Taiwan, which is a significant amount, right?
That's costly.
Yeah, very costly. So I don't see, especially now, I don't see that's happening. And again, I think a lot of this the stuff we're doing in Iran was because we're going to fight these proxy wars, and because they just don't. One, they don't have the stomach for it, and two, they know they're going to lose. There's no outcome for China that they win. Warfare is no longer about how big your army is and how many men you can put forward, right? That's not the scale anymore that you have to look at. And the way that we're able to affect the battlefield, and not only that, but the way that we're able to affect every aspect of the battlefield, including information operations, including signals warfare, all the other aspects of it. I just don't see it going hot. And I think that this was a big step in that. And I always tell people, go back to look at Trump's national security strategy. So every president within their first 2 years, they have to put out their national defense strategy and their national security strategy. And Trump's most recent national security strategy put a lot of focus on interdicting and pushing back against the power of China and what China's trying to do and how they're trying to use proxy warfare. And so I think this is all part of that playbook that Trump's pushing forward. So I don't see it.
And it's, I mean, it's what do you think about, and it's, I imagine, I think it would probably be because, well, Xi firing so many of his military advisors, right? Like higher ups, like really high. Xi Jinping of China, the dictator, or was he prime minister or president?
Yeah.
President, right? I don't know, whatever
What do they call it. Yeah.
Yeah, the Communist Party. He got rid of a lot of his military advisors, like quite a bit, I think, recently and over the last year or two. And do you think it's just because they're telling them, they're like, hey, this isn't going to work. I know you promised that you're going to take Taiwan in like 2027 or something like that, but this isn't going to work. That's probably what's going on. And
yeah, and then you just have to, dictators have to purge the ranks every once in a while just to root out any competition that might come towards them. Mao did it all the time. Mao, every few years he would purge the ranks just to make sure that they always just frame it as like that person was either
disloyal,
going against me, disloyal, all the things. And that just kind of keeps the loyalty strong. So there could be part of that, and it could be part of that he's not hearing the answers that he wants to hear. But right. I think the reality of the situation now, and I think they understand that, because again, it was their surface to air missile systems that were supposed to keep us out of Iran, and we walked right past them like they didn't even exist. So I think that they're really rethinking their own capabilities at this point. And I would not think we go hot in a war with them at all. We would see direct actions that look a lot more like terror attacks in the United States before we'd see anything kinetic between like us and China. That could lead to something like a hot war in China then, if it was proven to be, them behind it. But it would be really hard to prove that, especially with, how many people came into the country under Biden that we don't know about. I mean, how many of those, not only Islamists, but how many, Chinese actors, how many, and then just the fact that every Chinese national is a spy by their own law, right? And that's another people don't understand that they by law have to, if they come to the United States or if they're in China, they still are going to have family in China generally. And if they come to the United States, they could get approached at any moment by a member of the CCP, and they have to cooperate and give whatever information the CCP is asking for, or they could, it could negatively affect their family back home. And so I think we do need to assess some of these threats that, like, I was actually against Trump allowing, at first he was like, all the Chinese, they're getting out of the country. And I was like, hell yeah. That's actually very important, especially the students, because
right.
And then you have this, you have these massive networks of baby tourism, where they're sending Chinese people here, and they're having children here that become American citizens, and then they're going back and raising them in China, but they're U.S. citizens. They could come back whenever they want, and they have all the same rights and all the same, but they're not Americans, and they're Chinese, have American. China. So there's a lot of there's a lot of issues, and it's we're on a multi-front war all the time, every day. But I think Trump and the cabinet that he has in place right now is effective, and they're working towards it. And again, as long as we hold on in 2026, I think the United States is going to be okay. So
one more question, Isaiah. Sorry, I know you want to wrap this up, but one more question. Speaking of this cabinet, what do you think about the performance of Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War Hegseth? Because obviously he's constantly painted as in the media as like incompetent and it's a clown who shouldn't be in that position at all. What do you think about him, his performance and his competence? I think
he's the perfect man for the job. He's a change agent. So for just like Just like if a company, a massive company's failing and they bring in a CEO that isn't your typical CEO, he's not, and maybe he's not your long-standing CEO. He's not going to be the guy for the next 20 years, but he's the change agent that's going to come in. And he's going to affect the change that needs to happen in that organization at this time. I think he's the perfect man for that. And I tell people a lot, one thing that they don't realize about, especially the officer ranks, when they get into the general officer levels to the, once they get their first star and so on, they're 20 years removed from a line unit or from a team or from the lower level units of the military that they used to work in. That, think about that. I mean, that's a lifetime away from what you're doing now. They're completely, so they're completely removed from that entire thought process. So they don't actually, a lot of times they don't understand what the men even need anymore. They don't understand what the battlefield looks like from that tactical perspective, because they're stuck up in the strategic levels perspective, looking at, just numbers and all that.
Also being political, I'm sure, in different ways.
And then super political too. So Pete he never got to that level. So he was never corrupted by any of that and never pushed into that kind of sphere like some of these other guys were. And he can think outside of the box, and he can do things that, the guy like General Mattis, I don't have a lot of bad against him. I don't think he was terrible or anything, but I also think he was set in the way that he thought that it all had to be ran, and was unwilling to get outside of that box to kind of fix some of the problems that were happening in the Department of Defense. And Pete Hegseth is willing to do that. He's willing to fire the people that need to be fired. He's willing to move the needle where it needs to be moved. And that's important because, and to bring back lethality. I mean, that's our military moved away from it really after World War II, but, especially in the last 20 years has moved away from the number one priority being lethality and it instead being all these other things, the diversity and all the other stuff that doesn't actually matter in the warfare. And so, I think he's doing a great job. Again, I don't know that he would be, even if I don't know that he'll be there for forever. And, even I don't know if he'll even be there the whole time for Trump's term. He might hit all the goals that Trump wanted him to hit as the Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War now. And then they may bring in somebody else that has just, they could take it to the next level if they need so. But I think it's great so far.
One more, Isaiah. One more. Sorry, I'm talking to a military insider, man, military man.
Fine.
And I'm just like, I gotta ask him about this. UAPs, brother. UAPs. Have you ever heard any interesting stories personally, from Air Force or anything like that? Or what are your thoughts on this whole thing? The file. What are you thinking?
I think what we're seeing is the U.S. government has had a long-standing policy of anything that they can't immediately explain, just classifying it and then putting it away. And I think what we're seeing now is a new kind of push to where like, hey, we're not going to classify every little single thing. Like, we don't know exactly what this was. We don't know that if it was a test from another country and whatever. I do know the UAP atmosphere or whatever you want to call it, the ecosystem, these people that kind of operate in those fields. I would say most of them are not very trustworthy. Most of them are sensationalists looking to get rich off of, or at least make a living off of telling you that this is this and that is that. Some of the aircraft that they're fielding don't look like how aircraft always has looked, and especially with drones and the new things that are coming. And then video, AI, all the things that you can do now. You can't really trust any video. It's only going to get worse because it's only going to get harder to tell what's real and what's not real. But I do think what the White House is putting out now is more a policy of, we're just going to release stuff instead of just classifying it all, even if we don't know exactly what it is. And I don't hate it, because then you're going to have these people that are going to dissect these problems on their own time that are, just like you have the people like Data Republican jumping into all these NGOs and going through the US government doesn't have the time and the personnel to be like, we're going to go through every single NGO that's in existence, right? We need some independent people that just like, this is their passion and they're going to go into it. declassifying some of the stuff and putting it out there is going to allow some people to go through and be like, this is what this is. I found this and blah, 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 and break it all down that way. So.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, Isaiah, take it away.
Dude, it's fine. Like, no, listen. If there's one thing that, as a former military guy myself, I appreciate these. I appreciate these questions coming up. Or like, it kind of takes it. Some of this stuff actually takes me back a little bit to when, even though I didn't serve long, but it's definitely good to have a military, a serviceman on with us to really that's really plugged into this kind of stuff, and who loves our country. And Chase, I really appreciate you coming on to the show tonight. And of course, there's Shake asking stupid shit. What did you do in the military? What did you do? I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't do anything. I was not in long at all. Okay, like I was. If you honestly want to know, I was only in. Within for 5 months and 2.5 weeks, I did not pass basic.
Thank you for your service, Isaiah.
There was no service. There was no, and I don't even like talking about it because, like,
no, you keep it real. That's just how it went. Yeah, how it went.
I have nothing to hide in that regard. Yeah. But I was there. I served. I did enjoy when I was there. Just wasn't able to pass.
You probably did more than Tim Walz, right? What was he? Was he National Guard? What the hell was he doing?
Plenty more.
This is Chinese spy, probably.
I don't know what he was, but yeah, it was Chinese. But yeah, he taught Chinese
spy.
Chase, what are you work? Thank you again for coming on with us. What are you working on? Like currently, what are you working on right now, dude?
Right now, just kind of getting the show, the Irregular Republic going. Had some great people on so far, and we're just really, the idea right now is to try to give people just a realistic view of what's going on from my perspective, which is not to say that it's 100% accurate all the time, but it is a different perspective than a lot of people, look at the world and look at what's going on in the United States. And then just, again, all the different propaganda. I mean, I have articles that I'm working on, and that those always come out on my Substack, and then I usually do a thread or something on X so that you can kind of see the shorter version of it and get some of that issue. I do a lot of I go into the NGO kind of breakdown stuff as well. One of the things I just went through was that nonprofit in Texas called Pure Hands that sent $750 million over the last 7 years to Yemen. Who knows where that money came from? Who knows what it was used for in Yemen? Because there's little scrutiny on it once it leaves the United States. But that's one thing that the Islamists especially are doing is they're using our nonprofit system to funnel money through so that it can't be accurately scrutinized, because the 990 is only going to have to show how much money came in and then how much money went out, but it doesn't have to tell you all the other details that, where did it come from, all that. And now it's tax free, so, wow. And then that's not even considering if your organization is considered a mosque or a church, or whatever, then you don't even have to submit 990s. You don't have to submit any kind of public scrutiny at all. So a lot of that I'm trying to push to get, that changed. I'm a Christian, but hey, guess what? Churches should be submitting how much money they're getting in and what they're doing with their money. Just because, there's the Westboro Baptist out there, there's still there's still bad people that are going to use these systems for nefarious purposes. And public scrutiny is the only way that we're going to be able to stop a lot of this stuff. So, so that's kind of, what I'm working on now. And, that's just pushing back against the halal right and the woke right and all their stupid stuff. And ultimately pushing back against the left and how they're trying to destroy our country. So, yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. That is our show. this evening. This has been Apostate Radio episode 53. Thank you once again to Chase of Green Beret Nap Time for coming through with us, man. We really appreciate it. We will be back next week on May 17th. Let me just look through this again. We have, I believe, our next guest for next week. I'm just looking through. How come I can't pick it up? I can't. Hold on. Let me just go through the calendar here, and it's still not picking up for some reason. Okay.
I'll double check it.
Yeah, I'm. Hang on. I'm just all over the place right now. I got it. The big man. Big show next week. Wilfred C. Riley's coming on.
Cool.
Apostate for episode 54 of our show. Ladies and gentlemen, you can come and see us here live 8 p.m. Eastern time. Once again, you can follow us on at Apostate Radio NY right there. You can also follow us at Isaiah L. Carter or at Nino Sabio X. And of course, if you want to support our show financially, buymeacoffee.com/apostate radio. We greatly appreciate you joining us tonight. We will see you next Sunday. Thanks again.
Thanks, everybody.